Okay, if we could have good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the April 10th meeting of the Board of Selectmen and Sewer Commissioners meeting. The board, actually this meeting started at 6:37 and the board was in executive session. So we've already done our roll call. We call to order, please. The words of Mr. Cruz. Everybody please check your cell phones. I'll say it a little different than he did. Make sure the volumes are turned down and that you have them on silence or vibrate or off so as not to disturb the meeting. If anybody wants to take pictures or record a meeting, we have a couple of people who have asked to do that. They have cameras. Bill, Archie, anyone else? Okay. We will proceed. The first order of business, I think, is to welcome Mr. Slavin, Alan Slavin, who was elected to the Board of Selectmen last week. Mr. Slavin, welcome. Good luck to you. You know, as you know, that the Board of Selectmen filed special legislation to fill the 2-year term, and you notice there is a seat empty. And Mr. Peter Teitelbaum is here, who was elected and is officially a selectman-elect in the town of Wareham. Peter, congratulations. And the board looks forward to filling this seat here very soon.
I bet you do, and I do have some news in that regard. I received a call from Senator Pacheco this afternoon at 5 o'clock informing me that the governor had submitted the special legislation to the legislature at 4:51.
Oh,
So
good.
it's now in the hands of the legislature. I appreciate everybody who has sought the deputy legal counsel. I believe Mr. Andrews among them, the town clerk, Mr. Pacheco, the state rep, and probably 20 other people have been trying to move this forward. But now it's in the legislature's hands, so we just have to sit back and wait for them to act. So I appreciate the outreach on my behalf and on the town's behalf.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next order of business is to reorganize the Board of Selectmen. After each town meeting, the board reorganizes. So we need to have a chairman.
You said town meeting. You meant election?
Yeah, the town meeting was actually April 3rd from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and then the business portion starts on the 23rd. So I'm just going by what.
I move for Mr. Holmes to be chairman.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded. Discussion. Question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Well, thank you very much. I'll do the best I can. Won't be perfect, but I'll do the best I can. Now, we'll need a motion for a clerk of the board.
I'll make a motion to nominate Kara for clerk.
I have a motion for Mrs. Winslow to be the clerk. Second. We have a second. Out of necessity. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations. And Mr. Teitelbaum, just so you know, for the next 12 months, if I make it 12 months, you'll be the last person to speak out of those chairs. I don't think I noticed that. Mrs. Begley, announcements.
Mr. Chair, if Mrs. Winslow is clerk, will she be taking over now?
I believe, Mrs. Begley, you have all the announcements.
Shall I just do the announcements?
We actually have a motion earlier that you were the clerk for the evening, so that means.
That's what I was trying to clarify with that motion earlier, Mrs. Begley.
That's
that's fine. Thursday, the Wareham Free Library is having a children's movie night for the Titanic, and that's at 7 p.m. WCTV is looking for volunteers for their building committee. On April 23rd, Wareham Fire Water District is flushing the hydrants, so if you see discolored water, do not be alarmed. Wareham Village Association is having their meeting on Thursday at 5:30 p.m. at Eastern Bank, and town meeting starts April 23rd at 7 p.m. Any other announcements, Mrs. Winslow?
I just have one, Mrs. Begley. I'm sorry. I thought you got a copy of this also. Wareham's Coffee Hour, a chance to have a coffee break and chat with interesting guests. This week we will have a discussion about the town budget for FY 2013 to be voted on during town meeting commencing on Monday, the 23rd of April. Discussion led by Derek Sullivan, 9 a.m., Thursday, April 12th, 2012, room 225, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham.
Mr. Slavin, announcements?
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
None today.
Point of order.
Yes, sir. State your point.
7:15 here.
I'm getting to it.
Yeah, we're coming.
You didn't have any announcements.
Mr. Holmes?
Thank you, Mrs. Begley. Yes, we did start a few minutes late, and at this time we'll skip participation and come back to it. We have a 7:15 hearing. Are the representatives from the Cohog Republic here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Please come up and sit here. You can identify yourselves into those microphones, gentlemen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My name is Robert Mills. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Wynn & Wynn. And
Okay.
Hyannis. To my left is Eric Bevins. He's the president of Project Half Shell, Inc. And to my furthest left is Thomas Hughes. He's the vice president of Project Half Shell, Inc. They're doing business as the Cohog Republic, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, is this a public hearing?
Motion?
Motion to open the public hearing?
We got a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Begley. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0-0. Proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I indicated, these are the principles of Project Half Shell, Inc. We're here before you this evening for an application on a liquor license, Mr. Chairman. The interested party is also here. Virginia Cubelis is here representing the property owner, Len Cubelis, who's the trustee of that property. Mrs. Cubelis is present. Thank you. As part of the due diligence in getting here today, my clients and myself have met with pretty much everybody in the town hall. The building commissioner, the building inspector, gas, electrical, and plumbing inspectors, the Conservation Commission as well, and the Board of Health. In fact, last week, we were before Conservation Commission on a RDA, on a request for determination of applicability, and I'm pleased to report, if you haven't already heard, that a negative determination was made, so that we've concluded all of our appearances before Conservation. As you know, this is at 197 Onset Avenue. There was supposed to be a hearing yesterday before site plan review, which would typically take place before this hearing. However, due to the largesse of their agenda, we were put over to April 18th. So we'll be going before them on April 18th for site plan review. We would ask that you hear this conditioned upon our getting final approval from site plan review, if you could, Mr. Chairman. One of the challenges we're facing is the calendar, as you know. This is going to be a seasonal business, you'll hear, and we'd like to try to get opened sometime in May if we can. So, as I said, we've been through Conservation, site plan is the next step, and then obviously this board as well, and that'll put us on a good timeline to hopefully, with this board's favorable consideration, open sometime middle of May, definitely before, we're hoping before Memorial Day. Really, nobody can give a better presentation than the president, Eric Bevins, who's the president of the organization. He's been in the business for about 15 years. He had a place over on Mashpee Island in Bourne for about 10 years, where he was the sole proprietor, the owner, operator, manager over there. And the island residents purchased that property, and so when that happened, he moved to Falmouth. He's operating a restaurant, tavern there in Falmouth. He's been open there for a couple of years now. This will be similar to the one in Falmouth, and I'm here basically to answer any legal questions that you have concerning the application. I'd be pleased to do that, but I think Mr. Bevins at this point in time would like to tell you more about the project itself, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bevins?
Thank you very much.
You're going to talk really close to that. So
All right. How's that? Good? All right. Thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity to meet with you. Our attorney, like Rob said, we were smart enough, we think, to go in front and meet with people previously and just get some feedback and, first of all, see if this was feasible. The location at 197 Spring Bars is, 197 Onset Ave is, I think, phenomenal and really a diamond in the rough, and we're really hoping to bring our Quahog Republic there. Because it is a new business in town and because we are new to Onset, we thought maybe we could tell you a little bit about the Quahog Republic, maybe not take up too much time, but just give you an idea of what we're about. As Rob stated, we were over on Mashney Island. It was 14 years, actually, and unfortunately we had to move on from there. But about the last 4 years there, 2008, we decided to change our name to the Quahog Republic, and it was all based on really a lot of life things that had happened and some real negative things that had happened. And we said, you know, that's enough. We're done being negative. We're done, like, dealing with all this negativity. Let's just focus on choosing to be positive and really turn the whole operation around. And even though we ended up losing the space, it's been the best thing that's ever happened to us. And it comes into mind when we think of our logo, which is live, give, and relax. And we like to live life to the fullest, give back to your community, and of course, like most everyone, we like to relax every now and then. And that's the basis and the core of what we do with the Quahog Republic, and that one of the things that we really want to bring to Onset Village. When people ask what is the Quahog Republic, well, it's two things, I guess, business-wise. It's a restaurant. Yes, we do have a local pub in a strip mall behind Walmart in Falmouth, and it's been 2 years. It does really well. We do all sorts of fun things, twist on real traditional stuff, but not too crazy we would scare anybody off. And we do a lot of great burgers, fish and chips, monster lobster rolls, big giant chunks. If with this filming for television, I'll get into it deeper, but we'll probably best to move forward. We also have a great retail line that we sell, and we're hoping to, in addition to the restaurant, be able to open a small retail shop in the same space at 197. My partner Tom handles all that. We sell stuff from hats, T-shirts, you name it, we'll sell it. And it's got to pretty much mimic our logo, live, give, relax. It's got to be comfortable, exciting, relaxing, and it's definitely good value, which is something we always try to put across. You probably have some questions on my experience has been pretty lengthy, from starting working for Rob's dad at the Flume restaurant in Mashpee to owning my own place at Mashney to being partners with Tom here for the last 2 years in Falmouth. That kind of plays into the type of people we have working for us. Our staff will consist of, it's going to be around 15 to 20 seasonal employees. We hope to be open from April through past Halloween. And if I could, a real brief synopsis of one of the things we sent to our landlord when we were deciding on whether we were going to be there, and he was deciding whether or not we could be there. I sent him this, and it's just a little bit about what we want to do. The Quahog Republic is excited about the opportunity to develop a fun-filled family beachside restaurant/pub with an attached retail hut at 197 Onset Ave. One of our goals is to embrace a local cottage feel and look, at the same time creating a functional, efficient family dining experience. We're looking to operate seasonally from early April and closing just after Halloween. Our menu will consist of our most popular items offered at our Falmouth location, in addition to a raw bar serving some of the local stuff right out of here in Wareham, which would be great. Price point, it's got to be approachable. We do our apps are from $4 to $8. And sandwiches and entrees are $6 to $22. So it's nothing that you're going to put in the middle of this town that's not going to fit with what is already there. Food will be served from 11:30 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. And we're looking to, we don't want to be a late night crowd, although we're looking for a 1 o'clock liquor license consistently like we did at Mashney. We always gave last call at 11. We're looking to give last call at 11:30 here, unless the Sox are hopefully going into extra innings and pulling it off, which we'll see. And we are looking to do some live entertainment on the weekends, particularly Saturday and Sunday afternoons. Sunday afternoons at our previous location on Mashney Island was a huge hit for families, and nothing was better than to see families roll up in their cars, pull out their beach chairs, and walk through the tunnel out to the lawn and enjoy themselves. And we really, Onset has a lot of the things that we couldn't capitalize at Mashney, we can really capitalize here, and that family-friendly atmosphere is certainly number one, and that we want to continue with. Along with the staff in whom we'll be employing, it's going to be a mix of veteran and rookie servers and cooks, which is important for a couple reasons. One, with the veterans there that we're going to have, the responsibility of serving people correctly is a major point of what we try to put across in not only our Falmouth location or any location coming up. Along with tip certification, we also have two other policies that we fall through to a T at our current location, and we look to continue here in Wareham. One is a red flag policy. It's pretty straightforward. The name kind of sends it off itself. It's if we have someone that we feel is a red flag, is borderline intoxicated, the communication factor goes through the roof with our staff, and it's so important for us to maintain that so that we can make sure that people are served in the right manner and people can still enjoy themselves and not ruin anybody else's time. Secondly, an IDing policy, which is we don't have a set date or age as far as how old someone should be that you should card them. Just use your common sense. Another incentive that we use to encourage the staff to card is $100 for every fake IDs taken, which is they get $100 cash right there if someone comes in with a fake ID. So it's another example of what we want to do to encourage our staff to do the right things. The facility itself, which we're hoping to build, is we have a, I believe you have it in your package in front of you, but there's another example over here. If you notice, this is the interior of the building currently where previously the Dunkin' Donuts was. The counter is basically in the same spot with 20 seats indicated inside. If you notice here, there's the walkway, there's fencing. All this is where the current existing concrete is, and we'll hope to have some tables and chairs listed out there, as well as an awning to go over probably about 50% of the outside deck. The decking is important because it will cover over the existing concrete, which if you walk down there is kind of rickety. It's not, I wouldn't consider it the safest place to walk, and we'd like to be able to even that out. The fencing that we're proposing is a 54-inch high fence that I do have an example of here. Thanks, Rob. The fencing itself is not only heavy duty, and hopefully it's something that can be maintained real easily. Create a nice look out there, a safe look for everyone. If you notice, the top railing is rounded off. With it being rounded off, it will allow customers not to be able to rest cocktails or beers or anything on that railing, because that's not what we want to encourage. We want to keep everybody inside the boundaries that fence would create. Planters are listed. We've got a couple here. You've got one at the entranceway here, another one here, and then there would be some sort of plantings in this area too. So again, it would just help clean up that whole area down there right now, which right now is, again, all old cement that's kind of rickety, and there's nothing to it really, and we really could enhance that area, and we're excited about that. The awning will be important only because of, obviously, not so nice days. Of course, we are a seasonal restaurant, and we're going to hope for the best weather possible, but any chance to be able to get people under and into our seats would be great, and the awning would certainly be hugely important with that. Parking for this facility, I'm sure that's a question. I know it is in Onset Village, just meeting with the Onset Bay Association, and that's a constant challenge. Although we are a new place immediately across the street, and there's another photo over here. This is where we are right there. The pay lot is immediately across the street, and the free lot immediately up the street, as well as all on-street parking. It seems pretty, I'm sure it gets crazy down there, but it is immediately across the street, which I think is a huge plus. And lastly, entertainment. Again, we mentioned earlier, we don't want it to turn into an entertainment venue. We want it to be a restaurant that has some entertainment on Saturdays and Sundays. We're not looking to do it 7 nights a week. I've been in the bar business long enough. I'm not interested in selling tickets to get into a bar to listen to a band. We just want to sell some good food, have some good drinks, good family fun, and the enhancement of the entertainment would certainly help our business on those Saturday and Sunday afternoons from 4 to 7. This is pretty straightforward for me. I know that there may be a million other questions, and I certainly can answer any of them for you, and thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, very briefly, just to cover some points. Mr. Bevins is the named manager by vote of the Project Half Shell Inc., and he's indicated that all his employees who are serving alcohol will be tip certified. He does have a lease, and that's in your package. It's a 7-year lease with an option. You've heard about the menu. His entertainment, he wants to be on Saturdays and Sundays from approximately 4 to 8 o'clock. He does have procedures and policies in place for purposes of noise control. He knows what it's like to be outside. Mashpee was outside in a residential area, and he knows what he needs to do to make sure that the decibel levels are sufficiently low not to upset the neighbors or any residential residences in the area. We've talked about parking. There is some lighting, which we haven't discussed, but would be glad to answer any questions in terms of the lighting that we have. Most of the lighting that we're going to have will be self-contained on the premises. It won't be spilling out into the street, adversely affecting people that are driving by. There are some improvements anticipated. There's a list attached to our application. If you'd like Mr. Bevins to go through those renovations, he'd be pleased to. I think, have you already pulled the building permit for those, or?
There's
It's pending?
It's pending,
It's
yeah,
pending
site
on that.
plan, I think.
The occupancy number that's been assigned by the building department is 99 with a capacity of 71 seats. That computes into about, the seating computes into about 15 vehicles. Requires us to have 15 parking spaces, just to put all that into perspective, since we did talk about parking. And again, would be pleased to answer any questions that you have concerning any aspect of this.
Mrs. Winslow?
Mr. Holmes, if the attorney could explain the pledge of license and why that hasn't been signed by the bank?
I was going to bring that up. The loan hasn't closed yet. It was supposed to close yesterday, so it hasn't closed. So we would ask that the board take no action on the pledge. I could even withdraw it, whatever the board's pleasure. We will be coming back before the board once the loan closes.
Okay.
Again, for whatever reasons outside of our control, the bank postponed the closing until this coming Friday. I think they're probably wanting to see what's happening here, because without a liquor license, there's no point in having a closing, quite frankly. I mean, they won't open the business.
Right.
So that's scheduled for this Friday. The loan is financed, as you'll see in your package, through the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce. They have a small business loan program, and that's what this is being financed through, to the tune of about, is it $100,000?
$100,000.
So we probably will be coming back before you seeking a pledge of the license.
Thank you.
Mr. Slavin?
You said April 18th. Are you going? Which board are you going before?
It's the site plan
Planning
review.
board, site
Planning
plan,
board.
site plan.
So that would either be the 9th or the 23rd.
Is it the next Wednesday?
It's next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, yeah.
Planning board meets on Mondays.
It's a
Second and fourth
It's a
week.
holiday
It's
Monday.
a holiday.
No, they meet the second and fourth week, though.
So it's a week from Monday.
We spoke with the chairman regarding that, because we knew it was a holiday, and he was able to look into it and follow up for us, and he let us know that he suggested to us that it was on Wednesday.
Okay, that's a special meeting then.
So, yeah.
Question for you. On the outside, it looks like you've got 46 seats there,
Yes, sir.
and you've got 20 inside. The retail store is being accessed through the old ice cream store?
It's actually being accessed through the common area, which leads to the bathrooms as well, into the staircase.
That's through those swing doors, whatever you have set up there?
Yeah, it's kind of there's the old, no, it's the same exit into the common area, and
Okay.
this was previously an office, and that's where the retail space will be.
Okay. We won't get into it here because we don't make the rules for that, but I think there's going to be some parking issues. You're going to have to use, obviously, the parking area across the street. and Onset as a whole area has severe parking problems anyways. And I believe there's going to be some issues probably with neighbors as far as music and sound, because sound travels across the water. And you have a lot of people that have been upset with Wickets Island before with noise levels. So you might have to curtail your hours with entertainment. I'm all set, thank you.
Mrs. Begley.
Thank you. Hi. I have a couple questions for you as well. Is there going to be height to the deck because the fencing is only 4.5 feet high?
The deck will be as, I don't know the exact dimensions, because the way that everything is right now, he's going to try and grade it to the highest point that's there now, and then flush it down to the entranceway as best as possible.
So the serving of alcoholic beverages will only be on the deck?
The deck and inside the, I guess.
But I mean outdoors.
Yeah.
So what kind of security would you provide on that deck regarding the alcohol?
Sure. I think a lot of things have to come down to staff communication and ensuring that customers aren't doing it. As far as making the fence taller and things, we hadn't thought about doing that because it would obstruct the view to the water. However, that's a huge point, and I know that that there's a zero tolerance basically. If we see someone messing around on anything, on any level, zero tolerance, they got to go. And I think really that's sometimes the most effective way to curtail any behavior that's not appropriate.
Would you be adverse to having, because we've this board, I wasn't on it at the time, had a similar circumstance with the serving of alcoholic beverages on an outdoor deck. So would you be providing an employee at all times on that deck and or a security camera to assure that the rules are followed
Yeah,
for
definitely.
serving alcohol?
We can do that. I mean, as of right now, we'll always have at least a hostess and at least 2 servers when the deck is operating. And there has been talk about maybe bringing in guys to watch the door, quote unquote, the door on like a Friday, Saturday night, let's say, if it was deemed necessary. And that could be another eyes on the railing as well.
So accessing the deck, would one have to go through your restaurant to go on the deck, or will there be access from the deck?
There'll be access
Off the premises?
Yeah, off the premises by taking, this is the existing doorway right here, by taking, creating a 4.5 foot high fence/bench here for a waiting area with the planter here, and then starting the other fence here, it would clearly indicate this is the entrance to the entrance to the restaurant, and that decking would come across here as well.
But will there be access from the deck just to kind of wander off up the bluffs?
No, not at all. This will all be fenced off here with the fence listed there. And then this back portion is going to be more of a, I don't want to say stockade fence, but a higher fence that you couldn't get around unless you had you went through the doorway there. On the other side of it will be like where our trash barrels are and things along those lines.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A couple more. For the music, the entertainment on Saturdays and Sundays, would that be outdoors?
Yes, it would. And I can show you, I think, in theory, where we're thinking of putting them would be in this back area here, again, because there's a higher fence this way. And with the fence here, we're thinking of putting them in this area right here with speakers facing towards the restaurant. So it's not like he's blasting it out towards the rest of the water, which I know will travel, but...
And this will be amplified music?
Yes, it will.
Well, some people do want to go to establishments to be entertained, and there are others that live nearby that their idea of entertainment is sitting quietly in their yards. So,
Certainly.
that may be an area of contention, but certainly this is a public hearing and anyone's welcome. And if you're not seeking a license tonight, we'll have to repeat the public hearing for your license anyway, I think. Now, tell me, do you have any kind of, or are you planning on any kind of contests or outdoor events?
We don't have any in mind. However, we do at our current location in Falmouth, we do have like a stuffed quahog eating contest that's hugely popular. And we try to do a couple events. This past Saturday, we did what's called a hog off, where people come and make their own stuffed quahogs, and we raise money for a charity that our own life scholarship that we put out for Falmouth High School seniors. So I'd hate to say no, because I know we do try to get the community involved in participating in special events. And with the inside of the dining room, in the building being so small, I'd hate to kind of pigeonhole ourselves and say, now we're going to do like dance contests or things like that. That's not on our agenda. That's not what we're interested in doing. I guess if that's kind of answers the question. I don't know.
Well, kind of, because we have a community events committee, and they would be kind of a good group to work with.
Sure.
From that standpoint.
He does have a, if I can just interject, a quahog day, and he's actually, Groundhog Day.
Oh, yes.
Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Well, he's Mr. Quahog.
Oh.
He generally appears on the front page of the Cape Cod Times every year, and he, through osmosis, speaks to the quahog, and sort of gives an indication of what the weather and what the tourist season is going to be. So that is an event that is big on the Cape, and there's no reason why it can't be something that the chamber here, embraces.
How's that working for you?
Last year did all right.
Does it see its shadow?
He's just got some magical powers.
Again, you already addressed the lighting issue. You're not. I'm hoping that your decor is kind of fitting in a seaside community as opposed to neon or flashing lights or those kinds of things. And again, Mr. Slavin brought up the parking. This is a nice time of year for you to see that nice pier out there and the nice spaces that are available on the street. You can forget that after Memorial Day. Just forget it. It's packed, and a lot of people use that for the beach. So I think, and you'll certainly be discussing this with the planning board, you'll probably be relying more on the free lot up by Hammond School and along that road, because there's just no parking to be had along Onset Ave and at the pier.
Okay.
And we could direct, and maybe we'll have this discussion with the planning board, we can certainly through signage direct people where we would prefer them to park if it's more expedient to do that.
But I would strongly recommend that you kind of come up with some sort of preemptive mitigation for any kind of noise, that people would perceive it to be noise as opposed to entertainment. And I understand that you've said that you're sensitive to the decibel levels, but I think this board needs to be sensitive to the residents that surround your business. So it's kind of, it's a balancing act.
Sure.
To be welcoming to businesses and want the businesses to come, absolutely, and to wish you all the success in the world. But it cannot be at the expense of the people that live nearby.
Certainly.
So I'm hoping that we all start on the right foot and can come to some sort of agreement where the surrounding neighbors want to embrace your business as well.
He was very sensitive to that on Mashney Island. Very sensitive, because it was a residential area, all residential, right on the water. And so Mr. Bevins, over the years, became very sensitive to that decibel issue.
Yeah, parking and decibel issues I'm extremely aware of, if you know my history with Mashney. We were very, very conscientious to minimize how late entertainment was performed, 4 to 7. I mean, that's 2 days a week, 4 to 7. We're not a late-night dance club. It's 4 to 7, 4 in the afternoon to 7 in the evening, and other things that we did at the old location that we could definitely do here that would help and possibly take the first steps to making sure things are done right. I used to work around the property at Mashney 2 or 3 times during the 4 to 7 time period, and the reason I would do that is to see what level it is. It acceptable to me? If I had a house here, would this be deemed unacceptable? Would this be ridiculous? And there were times when I would go back, and whether they said I did or not, I would say, hey, you got to turn it down. You got to turn it down. You got to turn it down, and we would accomplish that. And we'll do our best to work with our neighbors and make sure that it works for everybody. Definitely, that's the only way. It's the only way it will ever work.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I got to be honest with you here. Typically, I bend over backwards for businesses. So I'm just going to ask you one question first. We are talking about the same building that is in the front of our park in Onset, right across from the parking lot.
Yes, sir.
Little grayish color building.
Roundish.
Used to have Dunkin' Donuts in it.
Yes, sir.
I've been a customer of Quahog and a big fan of your website. A bunch of friends are all Quahogers and all that. I'm not one of them, but I've been there before. And I, for the life of me, cannot fathom this restaurant and bar in that little building. There's a public park there. I don't know if you've been to Onset in the summer. There are mobs of people in that park Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday from June right through Columbus Day. And I got to tell you, and I'm talking about the liquor license now, because that is a problem for me. To put a liquor license in the middle of our park, we've stopped charitable events from having wine tasting on public property. And a little fence like that isn't going to do it for me. On the Onset side, on the I guess the Stonebridge side, the gazebo side, right? Anybody steps on that grass, that's illegal. You can't have alcohol on a public property. So a little fence and a deck, I'm not buying that. I don't see that. And you're saying, well, you have somebody keeping an eye on it. There'll be a matron there. We made the folks across the street at the hot dog place there put a guard at that gate. Mm-hmm. We had another gentleman who had to put up a metal fence, and his was you couldn't climb over the walls unless you were really schnooking and used the chair. And we made him put a fence up so that nobody could get through there and have somebody standing there with television cameras, as Mrs. Begley mentioned. I got to tell you, I got a real problem with this going in the middle of a park. And you talk about music and entertainment. We have bands Thursday nights, Friday nights, Wednesday nights. Thursday night we have the TV movie for the kids.
We have movie nights on Thursday nights.
On the weekends we have blues festivals. We have the Cape Verdean Festival. We have all those events in this park. And if they're there having a band playing at the Shell, and you're going to have a band playing in this restaurant, I don't even picture a band in here. I got a real issue with that. In terms of an and I don't usually have an issue, but I have an issue with this because it's in the middle of a park. So, Mrs. Winslow, if you have another comment.
Well, I just wanted...
and I'm also surprised that no one asked any of these questions until just a moment ago. I mean, it's a real issue down there.
We can condition the license as we did with Kenny's Taffy, although if you remember correctly, there was an actual egress on that deck that led directly to the beach, which is why we insisted that an employee be posted at that egress. We certainly have the ability to put conditions on the seasonal license. As far as the entertainment license goes, I mean it's a seasonal place with a lot of entertainment already scheduled, so I'm not really quite sure, how much more entertaining needs be in Onset Village, but you're going to be competing.
Well, but the point, Mrs. Winslow, is competing within feet.
I understand
matter of
that.
feet. You have a band in the Shell,
but
or
this
you have
is
a kids' day in the Shell, and then you have this.
If I might say, we're not interested.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry, sir.
And then you have this entertainment going on within feet of the other things that are going on. And I got to tell you, I've lived there 7 years. It's difficult just to walk up that street in the summer on the sidewalk because of the crowds. You're going to have people sitting there eating on the sidewalk, right next to the sidewalk. What barriers are there to stop people from walking out on the sidewalk with a beer in their hand? It's public property all around that building.
right. I understand that, but the building sits on private property, and it's up to us to ensure that the security measures are in place that we feel comfortable with in order to grant.
Well, I think you'd have to have some pretty serious security features to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Well, it's a public hearing, so I think that the public is going to express their concerns, and then we certainly can
Okay.
discuss.
I just wanted to make my feelings known, Mrs. Begley, and then we'll ask for
Well, just a
if
couple
there
of
are any
things.
comments.
I guess I know that the building is private property, and I've really only been on this side to go get ice cream. To the left, how many feet from the actual edge of the physical building is private property? I mean, are you planning on going right to the property line?
Where are you referring to?
To the left? The entrance?
Like right here?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
So you're planning...
That dark line is...
Yes, I understand. So that's where the edge of your deck would go?
Yes, it is.
Along the sidewalk.
So no setback at all?
Okay.
So that's, how many people would be in that, how many people are you planning on accommodating to that left? Outside of the building?
46. I counted.
So 46, but I saw there was outdoor for,
Outdoor is 46, inside is 19 or 20.
that's
the
not what it
plan.
said on the plan, Mr. Slavin. I saw in the corner, it said 60 outside. It said 19 inside. If you look at that little line, it says seats. 19 inside and 60 outside.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the triangle area, which is out along the fence. and
So
going around.
where are the others?
On the other side of the building.
Seating starts from here, which there's an existing overhang right here,
Yes.
along to right here.
So that's where the 60 are?
Yes,
All on the same area, same deck?
yes.
I think so.
Is there anybody here from the public that would like to speak on this issue, sir? Joe, no, you need to come up. No, you need to come up, sir. If we could give up just one of those seats, guys, please.
There's not 60.
Hi, my name's Joe Mulkern. I'm on the Disability Commission, and I didn't get to talk to the other members, but I got a call today from a woman that lives down there, and she wanted to know the questions about what they're doing as far as taking care of the disability questions. They've gone to every board except apparently they don't have to go before us, and I'm just hoping that the building inspector makes sure they're in compliance with all our rules and regulations as far as handicap ramps. The woman asked me about bathrooms. I don't know too much about it because I've just moved in town and I didn't get a chance to get down and look at it today. So if these gentlemen could answer the questions, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, sir, go ahead.
Thanks, Joe. Yes, we've spoken to Paul extensively. Currently, the bathrooms are handicap accessible, as the plumber inspector did come out and examine them before signing off on the first form to get everything going. Secondly, there is a handicap ramp right here currently that goes into the main building, as well as another one here. When you get inside here, it slopes down into this area. There's also a ramp right here, and our design plan is to incorporate them all together with this decking, which I said the highest grade is up in this level here, so they're going to try and slope it back down to the entranceway here. You got it.
Anyone else? Sir, come on up.
I'm Gerald Barrows, and I'm all in favor for it because I believe that this will bring revenue in for the town of Wareham.
Sir? Thank you, Mr. Barrows.
Yes, Frank Kozik from the Republic of Onset, the real Republic of Onset. I have one comment,
So noted.
a couple of questions. First of all, the security, I was probably in Kenny's 10 times last year, things for the kids. Never once saw anybody manning that gate. And I was aware of it, and I was aware of the stipulation. It was, in 10 trips there was never anybody at that gate. Second of all, I assume you're going to sell stuff to go.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, going back to the days of Dunkin' Donuts in that location, Onset Beach was a sea of Dunkin' Donuts cups. Onset Beach, Onset Pier, the whole area, the Bluff, and Dunkin' Donuts cups because every one of them was labeled. I'd like to see, if you go forward with this license, I'd like to see something to mitigate for this business to mitigate the trash on the beach and the litter. I wish every business, because there's Mark Anthony stuff out there too, and there's other stuff out there too. But I'd like maybe start with this gentleman and put some teeth in it and get something. Whether he pays to have a portion to have the beach cleaned and the area cleaned, or he puts people out there to do it. Let's get this litter thing going, because the people aren't going to stop dropping litter. We're gonna have to pick it up.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Nancy Miller. I'm going to come up and make known that I am absolutely against this type of an establishment on that corner. If you guys remember, about, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago, the selectmen refused to allow a carousel on that corner because of the amount of increased traffic and the concerns for the safety, and you start getting folks sitting out there drinking and on with the kids going to the beach and the restaurant right there with the park. It's going to be a nightmare. And if you also remember when Stevie B's wanted a deck outside their restaurant, it had an 8-foot stockade fence, and he has to have an employee at the gate door. So I don't, if you do go forward with this, that's what it needs. A 4-foot fence that looks like a split rail fence, please. That's not any protection for anyone that's walking up and down the street. I object to this totally. We have a beautiful community, and that's a neighborhood area. That's where all the kids are all summer long. There are more activities than you can shake a stick at, and it's the atmosphere of a community. You start adding all the drinking and the partying that their website shows is standard for the restaurant. I mean, it has its place. It's not a problem. Well,
It's your website.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
It's your website.
yeah, it's
Just look at it because
She's referencing your website.
yeah.
it's a very family-friendly restaurant, and I would encourage people that before you shut us down, give us an opportunity to make sure that we do things the right way.
Anything else? Mr. Snow?
No, thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak in either favor or opposition? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I will. I'm not a very good speaker, so here I go.
Go ahead, just speak real close.
I'll
and
try.
You'll be fine.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jenny Cubelis. My husband and I own the building. And our history with the building, we originally started Leo's Harbor Lights restaurant. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with that, but it was very successful. We had the entire building. Parking was not an issue for us. We had a full liquor license. We never had any issues that I'm aware of. We did have some limited seating outside, but just some cafe seating. Really didn't have a problem, except we were spread thin running the boat club, Harbor Watch Inn and Boat Club, and the Onset Point Inn at the same time. All very exciting, I think brought a lot of business to the village. I think we sorely need Cohog Republic in the village. I've been to their properties. I was a patron of the Mashney Island property for at least 15 years regularly, and have small children at the time, and I feel Onset needs this. I don't think the website shows anything beyond what Eric had described. Location, I understand it's private property, but we've had Guido's, the ice cream shop there too has quite a following. I think their apparel will bring some people. I think their food is tremendous. I think it's the shot in the arm the village needs. And Dunkin' Donuts, we did have Dunkin' Donuts for 15 years and noted with the trash. But I think the lines, I was there every weekend, and lines were wrapped around the door, and I didn't see
Lines of people, ma'am.
lines of people.
Lines
Yes,
of people
lines of
are
people.
not the issue. The issue is you can't have lines of people with a drink in their hand
Okay.
on public land. That's the issue.
I think, well, it's a contained area.
I
according to the
understand. Well,
plan,
I
so-
know, but you're saying there were crowds there. There were crowds there every weekend from Friday
True,
to
everywhere.
Sunday, right?
Everywhere, that's correct.
But this is a different issue, not just having a line of people to get something to eat or a cone of ice cream.
Correct.
This is serving alcohol, and if those people walk onto the grass, that's town-owned property.
Right. But they're
And that's
contained in
against
the
the
area.
law. You can't have that going on. So the board will decide what they want to do. But there has to be, I personally think it's a nightmare waiting to happen. But there's got to be some real safeguards for our community, and I just haven't heard that. This little stockade fence isn't something that I could see that's going to protect people walking by or people in the restaurant. It goes both ways with that little fence. So the lines in the crowd isn't the issue. The issue is that alcohol being served on public land. Can't do that.
It's being served in
I
private
understand
property.
that, but it doesn't take much to walk outside of a little fence like that, or to walk over and go grab a smoke and take your drink with you.
But it's being monitored.
Well, if it is,
That's the
that's the
intent.
question.
That's the
And
intent.
that's what this board is responsible for, to make sure that they're willing to take a chance that the if doesn't happen. Are there any
Thank
other
you.
comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Ma'am, you set?
Yes, thank you.
Ma'am, please.
Thank you. Brenda Ekstrom. I think that I certainly understand Selectman Holmes's concerns, and I have them too. I have children that do hang out there, go to movie night and stuff. But I think that, as the previous speaker said, this is something that if you go down, to Falmouth, to Katomet, to those areas, these are the type of places that we see. And I think that if we're going to do this, we should do it with somebody who has experience with it. Hold them accountable. Hold them to the standard that they do in other places. And if they don't, pull them back in for a show cause, or shut them down, or whatever you need to do. But it's going to rise, or it's going to raise onset to that next level. And I think that's the type of things that we need in there. And also just to Selectman Sleeve, and congratulations, by the way, but also the 18th, it is a special planning board meeting. I have an article on the warrant, and they continue to most of the hearings to that day because of the holiday. So it is on the 18th, so I'm sure that is when they're going. But I support it, but I agree. I think you hold them to strict restrictions and hold them accountable to it. But I think that the concept of it, I think it will raise the caliber of onset. So thank you.
Anyone else? Sir?
Ken Barrows. As an American living with disabilities, I'm the son of Gerald, and this is something that I feel we need.
Thank you, Mr. Barrows.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Mr. Andrews?
Just the Reader's Digest version. I guess you could go up and down the seacoast, as I have, from Portsmouth, New Hampshire to Onset Village. And you're going to find a lot of pre-existing non-conforming uses. And what that means is you have buildings that have been built in another time. So with safeguards, and I was there when Kenny's I've been over many times to get a burger or two, and I did see people there watching the gate. So I think with proper controls, we're looking to build up our restaurants row, if you will. I think it's important to take a look at this and to hold the individuals to the highest standards that we possibly can, because the same thing happens in Portsmouth and Newburyport. Go up and down the seacoast, and you're going to find people enjoying themselves. They want to be close to the waterfront. I think in many cases, the license holders that are close to the waterfront are more responsible than some other holders, as we've found out recently. So, in my opinion, humbly, I would say at least give them a chance. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, I move to close the public hearing portion.
Second.
We have a motion made to close the public hearing portion by Mrs. Winslow, second by Mr. Slavin. Any questions? Other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
400.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would like to suggest to Mr. Bevins that perhaps he consider a different type of fence for along that sidewalk. I'm not suggesting that he needs an 8-foot fence, but I do think that those are very real concerns, and I think it's extremely easy, even if you had 3 people out there with 60 people on that deck. I mean, we can try and adequately describe to you what this area is like, but you're not going to believe it till you see it. I mean, it's wall-to-wall people. It's going to get very confusing, and it's going to be very easy for somebody to do something that's going to cost you your license. Because it's not going to be the person that does it that we're going to call before us. It's going to be you. So that would be my first suggestion. My second suggestion, and the board can certainly add their own, is that there absolutely must be a security camera that covers the entire length of that sidewalk in the event there is an incident. And that's not just for us, sir. That's to protect yourself, because you have throngs of people moving through this area at all times. I also believe that it should be absolutely mandatory that there be an employee on that deck at all times, and when that deck is at capacity, there should be a minimum of 4. 4 people for 60 people is not a whole lot. I don't think that's asking a whole bunch. And, this is a seasonal license. If there's a problem, we're gonna be having you sitting right here again, and we're not going to forget when it comes time to renew next year. And I don't say that because I'm trying to be discouraging to you. I just think that these concerns are very real. But I do agree with Mr. Andrews and some of the people that came up that, when you go to the Vineyard, I mean, a lot of these types of establishments literally sit right on the beach with a little 2-foot picket fence, and I get that. But this particular area is known for certain types of events like movie night, the Summer of Love concert series, and we do have to make sure, not so much you, but the people that are going to patronize your establishment aren't the ones that end up making what should be a good thing turn into a bad thing. So those would be the things that I would be looking for in any type of approval.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Mrs. Begley?
I think that some of the discussion here has been, I hope, helpful to you. And right now, they're merely suggestions that you can be proactive on. Until we vote on your license, and we can make your license, put all of these conditions on your license. So I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're going to vote on that liquor license this evening. However, it would probably be best if you did look at some of these issues that we've brought to your attention. I've been to many different places up and down the coast. Maine, they're known for having places right on the beach. The Cape, absolutely. But again, that we have some festivals that you are not going to believe the crowds, particularly the Cape Verdean Festival. Thousands and thousands and thousands. That's going to be just wall-to-wall people. So.
Well, I think the other point, Mrs. Begley, is this is not right on the beach.
No, but it's right on public land.
It's across the street.
And I understand that you're trying to preserve the view, but we're trying to preserve kind of the safety for you, your business, and for the town. that's what we're here for. So I don't believe that we're going to, you're going before the planning board next week. I don't know what they'll discuss or what kind of conditions they may suggest, just for the business and the planning portion of your business. But I certainly agree with Selectman Winslow about having a security camera out there. I don't know, particularly the deck area in itself, and I understand there's 60 people. I think that 4 people may be excessive. However, if you can come to us with a plan, that may be helpful. Because these are real issues, and these are issues that have come before the Board of Selectmen with other businesses, not necessarily like we brought up Kenny's. There have not been issues over there. And that's definitely been helpful, but there were also conditions placed on their license. So they knew that they would be brought in here for a show cause hearing. So I think just being I understand the aesthetics of your fence, but you noticed that right away I said this is a 4.5-foot fence, and how high is your deck? Because as far as I'm concerned, it's easy enough to, here you go.
Anything else?
Can I just clarify? The 4 people, they had originally stated that there was going to be a hostess and 2 servers servicing that area. The 4 people would only be when the deck is at capacity on a Friday or a Saturday night, and that would be to prevent just what you said, is a service coming in and out. You've got the hostess at the entrance, and you have that one extra person that can kind of patrol that fence line to ensure that that doesn't occur.
Anything else?
Are we going to continue this hearing?
Just one thing. We need to see what happens with the site plan, too. Mostly all
Right.
this stuff gets done there. They may have to change quite a few things.
Will
We're
we
just
be
jumping the gun a
continuing
little
this
bit.
hearing, Mr.
That would be
Holmes?
my suggestion, but I would need a motion.
I don't know what date, though.
Well,
Well,
the
yes.
site plan review is being done on what, the 18th?
The 18th is site plan review, and then we get into town meeting.
Oh,
Oh,
dear.
we have meetings during town meeting.
Yes, we meet at 6 on those evenings.
We could continue
We could do the 23rd at 6 o'clock.
to Monday. The other thing we have that night right now is the police procedures. Right? So we could, yeah, I don't think it'll take long. We've given it an hour now, so I think most of the questions are out there. It's a matter of what planning approves. How much time do you think you need after that site plan review approval or whatever to come back?
We'd appreciate your consideration for the 23rd, Mr. Chairman. That would be great for us.
And if you have that meeting on the, okay, so let's continue to Monday, the 23rd at 6 o'clock.
Want to do 5:30?
Sorry?
Want to do 5:30 because we have the policies and procedures that night too.
We can do 5:30.
If that works for everybody, that would just give them a little bit more time.
Is that all right, Mr. Holmes?
Yeah, let me just double check that. 23rd, 7 p.m. We have town meeting. The other thing we have, that's the 24th. Let's go back to the 23rd. Sorry, I hit the wrong key. We have just the police department policies, and then we have a list of surplus stuff to do with them. That should only take a couple minutes. When did 5:30?
Yes.
Need a motion. Mr. Slavin?
Just one thing. With the site plan review, with this complexity in a very small area, I don't think there's a good chance they won't get done in that one meeting.
If
We can
we'll
schedule it.
for that, and then if there's an issue, you will notify
You'll
us,
contact me,
right?
yes.
And we'll still have 48 hours to change the agenda if need be, so.
All right, I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing for Quahog Republic until April 23rd at 5:30 p.m.
I have a motion for April 23rd, 5:30 p.m. by
Go
Mrs. Bagley.
Go ahead, Mr. Slavin.
Second by Mr. Slavin. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Please consider all the comments.
I really like those shirts. Those are cool.
Okay.
So now, Mr. Chair, we are down to application from Point Independent Yacht Club.
Do we have someone here? Good evening. If you'd sit right up to that mic and speak very clearly and loudly into it, tell us who you are and what we're doing.
Good. Good evening.
Good evening.
Dennis Langlis from the Point Independence Yacht Club.
Well, the fence, sir, your fence, sir. And Dennis, you're here to change the, this is for a change of management, correct?
That is correct.
Are you the new manager?
I would be the new bar manager. That is correct.
Mrs. Winslow, any questions? Any questions from the board? I'll put it that way. Mr. Slavin?
Mr. Langlis, is
Yes.
that's the... Do you have your tips?
It's in process along with my wife's.
So you're not currently tips trained?
Not today.
When do you expect that to occur?
Before the end of the weekend.
This weekend?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, in the past, we've always ensured that we had the tips trained manager. I mean, we can make a motion contingent upon that, but it's not going to be effective until you send us a copy.
No, I could send Shirley a copy.
Yeah.
So,
That's fine.
but we need to make sure that that gets done.
Yeah, guaranteed.
And did we get a Corey?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw it somewhere in here.
I must have missed it. Okay.
Yeah, Corey came back.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, can I have a motion?
I move that we accept the application from Point Independent Yacht Club, 1517 Independence Lane, Onset, for change of manager from Peter Sullivan to Dennis Langlis,
Yes.
under the provision of Chapter 138 of the Massachusetts General Laws, contingent on the office receiving his TIPS training certification.
Can I have a motion by Mrs. Begley?
Second.
By Mrs. Winslow. Anything further on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? 400. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Good
you,
luck. Yeah, please get that as soon as you get it. We'll get this expedited. Next, we have a change of
Mr.
manager
Chair.
from Piper BoS.
Excuse me. Could we take a moment? Mr. Newman was here for citizens' participation. He
Oh,
can't
dear.
stay much longer.
Of course.
And he would like to come before the board for just 3 minutes if possible, if Piper BoS wouldn't
Go ahead.
object. Thank you.
Peter.
Grab that mic for...
Thank you, Peter. I got to apologize. I got a couple of certificates of appreciation I got to pass out here. They should have been done months ago, but they've been sitting on my desk and I keep forgetting to bring them up on Tuesday night. And I have one for Mr. Holmes and one for Mrs. Winslow.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you. And I apologize for not being here last week when you had them up for the cable committee. But I was here the week before because I was told the 20th and not the 28th. And I got a little ticked off when I didn't get called up and left. I'm being polite when I say ticked off.
Well, don't get ticked off, Jim. Mrs. Begley is going to read this, if you don't mind.
I'm going to read this so that everyone knows.
All right. Thank
This
you.
is from the Wareham Veterans Council. It's a certificate of appreciation to Stephen M. Holmes for your efforts in conducting the 52nd Annual Veterans Day Parade. Your effort in setting up and running the Annual Veterans Day Parade is greatly appreciated. Without your efforts, the parade would not have been as successful as it was. The 11th day of November, 2011, signed James B. Newman, Jr., Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You guys deserve the hand.
Alan, you want to read Mrs.
We got
Winslow's?
Mr. White in here and the
Way
others.
down. You have to speak a little closer to that, though. You're a little soft-spoken.
Wareham Veterans Council, Certificate of Appreciation to Kara A. Winslow for your efforts in conducting the 52nd Annual Veterans Day Parade. Your efforts in setting up and running the Annual Veterans Day Parade is greatly appreciated. Without your efforts, the parade would not have been as successful as it was. James Newman, Chairman.
And again, I apologize for not getting them to you sooner. But they've been sitting on my desk and it keeps them. I'll go to the selectmen's meeting tonight and bring them, then go home and leave them on my desk.
Thank you, Mr. Newman.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
And you're looking for some help right now, too, aren't you? For Memorial Day. So go ahead. Why don't you take a second? That was
Memorial Day. I have one more meeting to square that one away. I think we're not going to. We will not be having a parade this year. We're just going to do ceremonies that we do all the time. We will start at 8 o'clock over at the Center Cemetery, and from there we'll go to St. Pat's and meet with the church after Mass, their Mass. And we'll have a ceremony with them. And from there we'll go to Town Hall. Then we go to Agawam. And then sometime in between we're going to try and drop down to Bessie Park and put a floating wreath in.
But you're looking for help to put flags up.
I think I got that covered.
You got it covered?
Yeah.
It's every other year for a parade, Mr. Newman? Is it
Well,
every
it
other
used to be
year
every
for
other year.
Memorial Day?
One year we announce it next month. It's kind of, we don't have the bodies to go to do it now. So. And I got Mr. White handling the November 11th, the Veterans Day Parade again next year.
And,
Mr. White down sitting down
Mr.
there
Newman,
smiling at
while
me.
you're here, Bob White's sitting over there. I see he's itching to put on 2 parades a year now. You know,
Yeah.
he's trying.
He may be itching, but I'm not.
Yeah. And listen, and on the cable thing, while you're here, I know that the last I heard on that was the end of last week, because you're also on the board of directors, right?
Right.
And so we're still waiting official acknowledgement from town council. We've talked a little bit about it.
I don't believe
that
I
there are
have
no issues.
I
because
don't believe they have any issue. I just serve on the board.
well, you serve on the board of directors, and they receive money from those contracts, and so we're just making sure that you're a non-paid director, correct?
Non-paid.
Yeah. So we had a couple of people that applied that were getting paid, who were actually employees, and then we had 2 members of the board who are non-paid, but still members of the board of directors. So hopefully within the next couple of days we'll have some kind of a final answer for you. Okay. I apologize if there was any confusion on the dates.
I get confused very easy, too. But the reason we're cutting out some of the parades on Memorial Day, the youngest man on the Veterans Council is in his upper 70s. The rest of us are in our 80s. 2 of them are on canes and 2 of them are on walkers, and I'm in a wheelchair.
Oh, dear.
So you can see why we're kind of doing away with parades.
Well, Mr. Chair, if memory serves me, there was a lovely ceremony last Memorial Day right out here at Town Hall.
We're going to have one here again.
Good. That was
We're
very
going
nice.
to do we do like we always do. The Center Cemetery, there's a veterans plot down there. We start there, then we go to St. Pat's, then we usually go to Town Hall for a quick ceremony. Then we go to Agawam Cemetery, then we go to Onset, we do the Bluffs in Dudley Brown Square. This year we're going to throw the wreath in put the wreath in the floating from at Bessie Park, and then hopefully come back here and have a final ceremony at the Town Hall. And have any speakers that would like to speak to the time.
Okay, very good.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Newman.
I thank you. Now we'll get the hell out of here.
If we could get back now to
The Blue Dog,
Blue Dog.
doing business as Piper BoS.
Thank you, and I apologize for interrupting, but
No, not a problem. Okay, if you would identify yourself, speak very close to the mic.
Tara Wallstrom.
And Tara, we're here tonight to, this is an application for a change of manager
Yes.
from someone to you, I take it.
Yes.
Questions from the board?
are you guys going to be bringing back like the live entertainment bands and all that now that you're making these changes over there?
We do have bands, acoustical, and we do have a variety of bands that I've been in contact with.
Great.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Begley?
are your hours the same?
Yes.
The only thing that's changing is the manager.
Correct.
Everything else is the same.
Yes.
Nothing's changing.
No.
So hours are the same.
Yes.
Your entertainment hours are the same.
Yes.
Capacity's the same.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Menu's different.
Oh, okay.
All new menu.
Okay.
You'll have to come check it out.
Okay. You want to give your business, go ahead, do a little advertising.
We've done an extensive research on the menu. We worked very closely with Cisco. We have a few burgers named. We have a Gateman burger. We named after a Gateman. We have a Vikings burger. So we kind of wanted
State
to bring
champions.
a little
Sectional state champions.
bit. Exactly.
So what is a Gateman burger?
That one has, I know, right? That one has sausage, American cheese, lettuce, tomato, onion, and then the Viking has bacon, American sausage, onions, and peppers. But we have about 7 different burgers, paninis, seafood. There's a good variety. You'll be very happy with the changes.
These sound like Heart Attack 1, Heart Attack 2, Heart Attack 3.
But they're so good. We have salads too.
Oh, good.
We have good salads too. We have a good salad list as well.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Slavin?
This is a full change in management, correct?
Yes.
So everybody knows this is a complete change. This is no longer the old Piper BoS.
It's no longer. It's the new Pipers.
Thank you.
Is this how we should refer to it, as the new Pipers?
That's what I've been saying. Okay. The new Pipers, yeah.
Well, on the application, it says doing business as Piper. So is that the change? Okay. Are you changing the name of the establishment?
Not at this time.
Okay. Anything else?
All right.
Motion?
I move that we accept the application for a change of manager from Nicholas Jeppy to Tara Ann Wallstrom, from the Blue Dog LLC, doing business as Piper BoS, 207 Main Street, Wareham, under the provisions of Chapter 138 of the Massachusetts General Laws.
I have a motion made by Mrs. Begley.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Winslow. Anything else on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? 400.
I'll be in
Thank
for
you
one
very
of those
much,
burgers.
And,
Thank you.
and good luck.
Thank you very much. I hope to see you all there.
Okay.
Subway.
Next on the agenda, Mr. Chair, is the application of Subway.
Anyone here from Subway?
I don't think I saw them. It's a change of location.
This is awful strange. No one is here from Subway.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Begley.
this is a change of location, which is already opened.
Yes.
They opened?
Yes.
Yes. Days ago, I happened to be driving by and saw an open sign and cars in the parking lot and customers inside.
Well, maybe we should put this one off and tell them that they need to be present.
Well,
There was a letter sent, just so the board and the public are aware, that there was a letter sent by Shirley on April the 5th to advise that their application would be on the board's agenda for April 10th. You will be changing your location. Either you or a representative are requested to be in attendance at this meeting. So there was, documentation sent. I was kind of surprised to see it was open over the weekend myself, being that the license is still across the street.
Is it permissible for them to be open, Mr. Andrews?
I don't think so.
All right. All right, so we'll hold this until the 17th.
We're going to need to get some clarification from
But in
council.
the meantime, can they continue to be open, Mr. Andrews, or this board, or anybody answer that question for me?
I think we're going to have to ask council and take
They
the,
have a license to operate at a particular address.
I understand that, but we should probably double check.
Okay, so-
Mr. Chairman, I'll check on it. I don't believe they have the license for the current location, which would make it not permissible.
Right, I understand.
I believe that they have a license for a location that they're operating from, which would thus make it not permissible. So they would have to cease operations or come
Right.
back in on the 17th.
Okay, so back on the 17th, on the 17th agenda?
Council on the location. Do we have a motion on?
Before we do that, we also need, the health department and also the building inspector must have signed off on that too.
Well, Mr. Chair, through you.
They're all signed off.
They
I
all
know,
signed off.
But I'm just saying if they did, they issued something, it should have come back.
What?
Yeah, they all did sign off.
I know.
2, 4, 3, 4, 4. That's kind of brazen to do that.
Yeah, it is.
It may
I have a
be,
motion.
I make a motion to hold the application of Subway 2890 Cranberry Highway, Wareham, for a change of location for a common vic license under the provisions of Chapter 140 of the Massachusetts General Laws until April 17th, 2012.
second.
I have a motion made by Mrs. Winslow, seconded by Mrs. Begley. Anything else on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? 400.
Okay, next on the agenda, Mr. Chair, is Westfield discussion.
Yes, Westfield.
Chairman, citizen participation.
Say it again?
Citizen participation.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, back to
Let's go
citizens?
Let me go back to citizens' participation.
Certainly.
If we don't mind. That way, if anybody wants to speak and leave, they can do that. Mrs. Miller?
Certainly.
Ann?
I would just like to remind everyone that Thursday evening, 7 p.m. at the Dudley Brown VFW post on Onset Avenue is the pre-town meeting that the OPL and the town moderator will be hosting. We have refreshments and everybody has been invited that has anything to do with the warrant. So
Tell me the date again.
Thursday night,
This
April
Thursday.
12th, yes. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next. Mr. Barrows?
My name is Ken Barrows. I'm an American with disabilities, and I would humbly like to congratulate Mr. Andrews on his decision that was made It's difficult for me to be here right now, but on that token, Mr. Andrews, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Barrows. All right, next up. Yeah, you both got your hand up.
Angie and Sandy.
One, you can come on up. There we go.
Angela Dunham, Wareham Historical Commission. Chairman Holmes, members of the board, Mr. Andrews. This past week, the new owner of Kenny's in Onset made a donation of an original Kenny's sign to the town of Wareham. As a member of the Historical Commission, I took possession of that sign, and it is now in town storage, town secure storage. So I've come to inform you of that donation and to thank the gentleman who goes by the name of Stash. I told him that I would publicly acknowledge the donation so that he wouldn't think that I took it to my garage. And also to publicly thank him for his donation to the town.
Thank you. Would you just make sure that the committee fills out that documentation to accept the gift and then forwards it through the selectman's office? Because then what will happen is it'll end up coming here and then the board will vote to accept the gift. That's how that works. But if you would do that through your committee and just send the paperwork over to the office, that would be fantastic.
Consider it done.
Thank you. And thank Kenny's for a nice sign.
To Stash.
Stash.
I'd also like
So
to
don't stash the sign.
It's stashed on town property and securely locked.
Okay.
I'd also like to take this opportunity also to thank Mr. Andrews for his patience over many occasions of helping the committees that I serve with their projects. It's truly appreciated, more than he knows.
Thank you very much.
And I want to wish you the best.
Mrs. Slavin? It's going to become a point here. We're not going to let her speak anymore, right?
Once a month, Sandy.
Good evening, Sandy Slavin. Last Saturday, the litter mob hit Red Brook Road. If anybody's driven down there this week, you'll notice a big improvement on that street. I think we had close to 30 bags collected, and maintenance picked the trash up for us.
Wow.
2 weeks prior to that, it took 2 weeks to finish Narrows and Minot Ave. We do like to have families come to help us with the litter mob attack, but we found hypodermic needles along Minot Ave. That's not good for young kids. We found used condoms. Our only comment was, at least the litterer is not reproducing. It is a problem.
It's a family show.
It is a problem with the speed of the traffic on these streets. It's very difficult to pick up the traffic with your barrels and your baskets, with traffic not even yielding to us on the side of the roads or the speed. Our next target is Onset Ave on April 22nd at 10 o'clock. We're meeting at the Cultural Center. Onset Ave, for the most part, is picked up and looks great, but there are certain sections in which there are no homes, and those areas need to be cleaned up. So we will be mobbing Onset Ave on the 22nd.
April 22nd.
Is there a bunch of stuff there, Sandy? Because I saw frequently the people that that wear orange and are doing community service. I've seen recently along Onset Ave getting huge bags of trash out of there. Is there still a lot to be done on Onset Ave?
I was down there last weekend and it hadn't been picked up.
They were just there. Mr. Andrews, weren't they just there last week? I just saw them.
I believe so, through you, Mr. Chairman, that we had an effort there, as well as, I know Mr. Gifford is here. We've had all our street sweeping equipment out early this year. Have we been in that area, Mark?
Yes, we have.
All of Onset Avenue. So stuff might be up in the bushes, pushed back by the little snow that we had, or it might have been a trash container that flipped over. So whatever effort can go forward would be appreciated.
Well, I've seen nothing telling us that certain areas have been picked up by the people doing community service. I do know there's certain areas of town that have been identified and that individuals are going up and picking up. We noticed the area on Indian Nick Road between Minot and Stillman has been picked up by somebody, because that was one of the worst sites we've had. So we have a list of where to go, and we're working on it as the litter mob as to what to attack next. But right now, Onset Ave, if I drive down there and it's cleaned up, I'll call the litter mob off and assign another location. But
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I would respectfully request you work with Mr. Gifford, particularly as we prepare for, as we heard earlier this evening, thank you, Karen, earlier this evening, in preparation of the festival, so as people enter into town, we want to give them the best possible impression. We've been trying to work that pretty hard at leadership team, so maybe we could just kind of see, Mark, where we are and where the mob is going to. I guess, is that the best way to say that?
Yes, I did indicate, I did send an email out to Mr. Andrews telling him we were hitting Onset on the 22nd and asking them to pick up the trash.
Okay.
So if it's been cleaned, I'm not aware of it.
Well, the
Okay.
street sweeper's been down, Mark.
I know, but
It's been there, and we have had community service people every Wednesday.
Oh, one second. Yeah, I'm sorry, Ken. Thank you.
So we're gonna once a week as of right now.
Okay.
But there is still literally pick up on us there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Citizens participation.
Hi, Joe Mulkern again. I attend most of the Board of Health meetings, and I'm the proponent for that Article 48, what has to do with condemned buildings. And I don't know whether I'm getting a runaround or not, but I've been trying to work with the Board of Health to get 118 Sandwich Road taken care of. Talk with inspectional services. We have the money available. Apparently, we have a bid out that's been accepted by the town. And the Board of Health said they were going to send up a letter or something to you people to find out who is going to spearhead this thing to get this one particular property taken care of.
It's on the
Have
agenda.
an update coming up in a few minutes. on
Number
that
9
project.
on the agenda.
Okay, very good. So I'm just curious because it's been going on forever and ever and ever, and
Number 9.
it's a serious problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Westfield.
Thank you for citizens' participation.
Westfield discussion, number 7.
I sent Mr. Heaney a note. Do you know if he emailed or sent in the document electronic?
I haven't seen the most recent one, Mr. Chairman, but
Would have been this week.
No, I haven't seen
I have
it.
not seen it myself.
Did you see it?
No,
Spec?
no, sir.
We can get it tomorrow morning or request it. again.
With the board's permission, then there was the update on the sewer capacity, the ball field menu, and
I'm here.
I apologize. There was the update on the sewer, which you all got 2 weeks ago. I confirmed that with Mr. Campina today. And then we were waiting for Mr. Bowen to give us, which he did last week. And now it's just a matter of getting the document to the town administrator. So if the board is amenable to this, I will track the bill down tomorrow, or it may already be in the office, and just send that electronically to the board if you want to review it. And then if there's no issues, I'll give it to town administrator to put the RFP out.
Could it go to the board and should it go to council first or no?
Mr.
Does it
Chairman,
usually?
Through you, it could go for one
You
extra
usually give it to council.
cursory.
Administrator
Sure,
gives
I'm
it
happy to do that.
council. Yeah.
I'm happy to send that to him.
All right?
Yep.
Thank you.
Number 8?
Number 8, discussion with Beta Group, sign inventory.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just introduce this quickly. We are required by the federal government to make an inventory of all of our signs. You may remember a appropriation of $30,000 or such. Because many of the signs and the way we read signs as we drive and bike and traverse our roadways and byways have basically changed. And so I'm going to leave it to the experts, but I love it when the federal government or the state government hands you a mandate, doesn't give you any money. So in this particular case, I'll let Mr. Gifford introduce this. And also I asked for the board to be updated with regards to, I don't know if we have it tonight, Mark, but the Transportation Improvement Program at some point.
Yep.
Because in my town administrator's report is some good news from the governor and the legislature with regards to Chapter 90 funds. Mark?
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Mr. Tony Garrow from Beta Group. He's done our road management program and also a sign inventory, which, like Mr. Andrews explained, is an unfunded mandate by the federal government, but it's complete, and I've given you a handout, so he'll be giving you a presentation on both.
Good evening. We've been working
with Mark and his staff now for about 3 years. The initial project was a pavement management system, which involved evaluating all the public roadways within the community. So tonight is essentially an update on the pavement management program, and also some enhancements to the asset management program which have been made within the last 6 to 8 months, which did include the signage and some other items too, some other unfunded mandates as well, which the town will have to address in the near future. I'm looking at now the first page, the second slide, benefits of pavement management. The town now has an active asset management system. It's installed at Mark's office. It's maintained on a regular basis. The inspections were completed 3 years ago. I believe I was in front of you back in 2010 to present the findings of that initial inspection program. The goal of the project is to allow the town to be more proactive in making decisions with respect to roadway improvements. The system specifications, if you move to the next page, it's a non-proprietary system. There's no licensing costs associated with the system. It's also GIS-based, which allows Mark and his staff to generate maps. It allows analysis to be performed in terms of different areas of the community that might be interested in other types of repairs. It also allows now that the signage has been collected and also catch basins have been collected. It allows now the ability for roadway improvements, signage, and catch basins to be evaluated collectively within one system. The slide on the bottom of page 2, really what that's showing is now that the town has the foundation moving forward to maintain these assets in a consolidated system, and it allows compliance measures to now be met, and also for the community now to really be, or Mark in particular, to be more competitive in terms of showing a need, in terms of additional funding which is needed to maintain the roads at a certain level of service, which I'll get into more into the presentation. On page 3, what that is presenting, just the roadway profile for the community. The town currently maintains approximately 124 miles of road. There's a total of 244.73 miles of road within the community. Based on the condition survey that was completed back in 2009, improvements that have been made since that program was implemented, and also deterioration which takes place within the database. The current rating of your network is a 79, which is very good. We see ratings as low as 58 and as high as 83. So you're on the higher end in terms of your overall rating. We've been monitoring the level of the RSR, which is the road surface rating. Let me take a step back. That's a rating of 0 to 100, 100 being the best, 0 being the worst. So each roadway was assigned a unique rating within the town. That's that 124 miles of road which I mentioned. And you can see the majority of the roadways on the bar chart are in that fair, good, excellent category. Although you do have some roadways that are in the poor section, like most communities do, and those get addressed over time as funding is available. If we move to page 4, this is showing a breakdown of the repairs that are being considered by Mark at this point in time. The numbers associated with those are based on unit prices, asphalt prices which are current. So all the prices that we're developing now are updated on an annual basis within the database. The current backlog for the community is about $12 million, and what's meant by that is the cost to bring all the roadways up to 100 tomorrow, which is highly unlikely, but it's just a good number to have. It's a gauge to understand that it's about $12 million to bring all your roadways up to a level of 100. On the bottom of page 4, this is showing a summary of the roadway improvements which were completed between 2010 and 2011. A total of 6.3 miles of roadway improvements were made. varying between mill and overlay and level and overlay activities. Going to page 5, we've put together a proposed plan to take us through 2016. There's one thing that's nice about having this system in place. It allows you to do this type of programming and projecting and forecasting the condition of the pavement on a network-wide basis. So right now we're looking at targeting about 32% of the roadway network, which is significant. Granted, a lot of that is crack sealing, but that does improve the overall roadway network, and it's important that the crack sealing take place to extend the life expectancy of those roadways. The report, I know it's hard to read on the bottom of page 5, is just an example of a report from the program. I do have a copy of that here, which we can hand out at the end. This is a full-page copy of that. And this is a typical report that can be generated in the system. There's also a GIS map that can be generated, so it allows you to map your proposed projects on a nice base map, and you can create a plot for meetings if need be. Moving to page 6, this is a forecast that we've completed within the program, and what this is showing that the Chapter 90 allotment is about $735,000. We're showing in order to maintain the current level, which is a 79, you'll need approximately $900,000 a year to maintain that number. Right now you're at $735,000 in Chapter 90 funds.
Correct.
On the bottom of this page, this is showing when we first started working with Mark and his staff on this project, the total mileage that was on the Chapter 90 allotment, and which is very important. That's what your Chapter 90 funding is based on, the road miles that are accepted and have been submitted to Mass DOT. There's also a formula that goes into that annual distribution. But when we first started the project, we had about 109 miles that were on the books with Chapter 90. But now through the hard work of Mark's staff and working with us, we've submitted additional paperwork to Mass DOT. Now we're up to 120.25 miles, which are now on the books. There's some additional road miles. I believe it's about two more road miles, which I think Debbie's working on now to get that submitted. Yep. Actually, it should be 124.2. So we have about an additional 4 road miles, which is being submitted for Chapter 90. So hopefully when we see this next year, we'll be up to that, and that allotment will be even higher. So that's one thing that's important to do due diligence on getting that information updated on an annual basis. You can see the increase. It was about $221,000 since 2009. So that's significant. Moving to page 7, we've been working with Mark on some enhancements to the asset management program. The first is the MUTCD retro-reflectivity requirements. And what's required for that right now is the community must have an inventory and plan in place by January 2014. The original deadline was January 2012, which Mark had met, but now they've since changed the deadline. They've relaxed it a bit, mainly because it's an unfunded mandate. I think it's mainly they received probably a bunch of complaints about it, and Federal Highway has decided to adjust the deadline to 2014. But now you're ahead of the game here by having your inventory and plan in place. The project included locating all regulatory and warning signs within the community, so that's stop signs, yield signs, speed limit signs, school signs, children's signs, all those signs that you see within the community were all located, and also they were rated in terms of their retroreflectivity. If you turn to page 8, you can see the breakdown of the signs within the community. A total of 2,145 signs were inventoried. That's a pretty good number of signs to maintain. The majority of the signs you can see were children-type signs, which topped out at 300, stop signs 247, and speed limit signs at 222. Those are the top 3 within the community. On the bottom of page 8, we also evaluated the signs for compliance. That's really the purpose of this whole process, was to evaluate the signs to see if they're indeed compliant with the MUTCD requirements. Those signs, now that we have it in a database, we're able to analyze it and develop a capital improvement plan. Another task that could be completed, which we've discussed, is now comparing the inventory to your local ordinance. Should those stop signs actually be in place? Are the speed limit signs indeed accurate? So the inventory can now be compared to your local ordinance. Some communities have done that we've worked with. On the top of page 9, this is showing a summary of the material types that we found, which is really driving the whole compliance measure. You can see that the majority of the signs within the community are engineering grade signs, most of which did not pass the retroreflectivity testing. So now those are going to be incorporated into the plan to be replaced over a time frame. Now there's no set time frame now. Originally there was some more teeth in the mandate whereby all regulatory warning had to be replaced by 2015. They've since eliminated that deadline, and now it's up to Mark to incorporate that into his overall work plan in terms of getting those signs replaced. Currently, Mark's budgeted $30,000 to initiate this replacement program for this upcoming year. The balance, which is about $44,000 to replace the remaining signs, could take place in 2013 and 2014, or those could be spread out, over another 2 or 3 years after that. Another part of the project, we inventoried all the existing catch basins within the community, and that's related to the pending permit, which we're all anxiously awaiting to come out. We think it's going to be out probably within the next 2 months. And it sounds as if what's going to be required is that the community is going to be required to map its system, meaning locate all the drainage pipes, which starts with the catch basins. So what we did is we took advantage of the fact that we were out locating all the signs. We also located the catch basins at the same time, which saved you money. It was a very efficient process where everything was located within a GIS. So now you have the framework for mapping your stormwater system. There was also an outfall inventory, which was completed as part of the original permit back in 03 and 04. That has since been also incorporated into the asset management system. So you can see your catch basins and your outfalls. Now it's essentially a matter of really connecting the dots and generating your pipes and where they discharge. And that's really the next steps on that system, which is that last bullet, which is the system mapping and monitoring. And what I mean by monitoring is you need to monitor most likely your catch basin cleaning activities. Reports are going to have to be submitted, and also your outfalls are going to need to be audited on an annual basis. It sounds as if about 25% of your outfalls are going to have to be audited each year. But again, the permit has not been issued yet, so we're not quite sure about the details on that. But you're in good position now to move forward with the requirements of the permit.
Okay.
And with that, just the last slide, one thing I want to point out is the system's been used consistently, which is important. Once you establish a program like this, it needs to be used on an annual basis and be committed to the system, and that way you're seeing that 79 rating. If you're not committed to the program, you could see that 79 rating become a 75 and a low 70 pretty quick. So that's something that the town should be commended for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comments from the board? Mrs. Winslow?
I'm just wondering if this is something we can put on our website, because we do get a lot of emails from people, in terms of what the plan might be going forward or what that plan might look like. And, I just read through it and I'm thinking, when I drive down some of these roads, I think they're more important than you thought they were, but I guess that's all a matter of perception, right?
Well, in developing the list of priority projects, a lot goes into that. We're looking at the functional classification of the roadway, and that's really the volume of traffic that's carried. You do have some roadways that are in poor condition, but maybe those don't carry the same volume of traffic, could be the same rating, but maybe only 5 homes versus 10 to 15,000 ADT per day. So those are the types of things that go into the decision-making process. A lot of it's automated within the database, but then you also have the human factor that you need to apply as well, because you have utility projects that are ongoing. There could be other improvements that need to be made related to safety issues. So all of that gets computed when the plan is issued. The one thing about that plan, though, is it's a proposed plan. Hopefully the Chapter 90 funding will continue to come. But if it doesn't, for some reason, if it does happen, then that plan is always, subject to change.
Right. And I mean, I would say we should make that very clear, but at least this would give people an idea of, what our hope would be.
Yeah.
That would just be my suggestion.
Any other comments from the board? Mark, have you given this presentation to Chief Stanley and the road commissioners yet?
No, I have not.
Are you planning to do that?
We can.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, they should be made aware of what's going on. Absolutely.
Just regarding the road commissioners, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
In fact, I asked Chief Stanley this afternoon about the road commissioners, and apparently Mr. Charbonneau is the chair.
That's correct.
Oh, he turned it over. He was the chair when they started. Yeah, they've met, so maybe they did change. So, John Charbonneau. So maybe that would be a nice report to give them. All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just real quick. I just want to basically say that I've never seen a community really work towards a very important transportation program, which this entails, which is, by the way, I just want to state it again, thank the governor, thank the state legislature, including Senator Mark Pacheco and Representative Susan Williams-Gifford, for fighting for the 29% increase, because we hovered around 500,000 for many years, and because unrestricted local aid has been cut over the past 3 years by 33%, they said, you know what, we're going to put people back to work, we're going to give communities more money, which they have, and we've done it the right way. And Mark, just if you could just for a minute, because we have done 15,500 linear feet over the past year, and I don't know what the calculation is for this year, but we'll get to it. We've got major reconstruction efforts, correcting drainage problems, and all kinds of other issues. And let me tell you where I'm going with this, because there's something out there called MS4, and I'm not going to get into it tonight, but let me tell you what it is. Another unfunded federal mandate that says that you have to tie all of this together, that it has to work as a system so that we can comply with environmental regulations that are being, once again, pushed by the federal government down onto the state government, onto local cities and towns. So I don't know if you can give us the Reader's Digest version of 1 minute of how this ties into all of that. And the last part I just want to say is this board has been very proactive. I want to compliment every member, including past members, for providing us with the equipment to do the job, because without the new street sweeper and other types of equipment, we couldn't comply with some of the federal regulations. And so maybe just 1 minute of what that means to us in the future.
Well, like I mentioned about the stormwater management, that's the MS4, which you're referring to. And that's where the framework you have in place, mainly what's going to happen now with the catch basins, you're going to have to report on each individual catch basin. How much debris is being removed, how frequent it's being removed, but also by keeping track of that, you may find that there's catch basins that you don't need to clean as frequent. So there could be a cost savings associated with it ultimately. But that's part of the process, is the catch basins, evaluating those, and providing reports on an annual basis. The outfalls can be a little bit more effort. There's sampling that needs to take place at the discharges. There's different parameters that need to be evaluated. That information, again, is reported as well, just like the catch basin cleaning. The outfall inspection and sampling data is required to be reported on. So it's really becoming the whole stormwater. There's a lot of communities who are looking at a stormwater utility, things like that, in order to really fund what's required, because there is a price tag associated with these tasks that I'm describing. So the good thing about it is that you have a system in place. We provided some tools already for the outfall tracking and the catch basin cleaning, so that's part of the asset management system that the town already owns. So, you're in good position there moving forward. But there still will be some labor associated with the sampling and the catch basin cleaning, and some paperwork, additional paperwork, unfortunately.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
On that note, I've got to make this comment that Mr. Andrews mentioned. Alan has worked very hard on the capital planning committee to get us the equipment to do this stuff. And I've got to put it out there, I need the bodies, the personnel to operate this equipment. And I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you. You got it on the record.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Slavin, final comment?
I have a few questions. This is a little new to me. This system, we bought this system that we use, and yes, no?
It's the system that the town currently owns is a system that we've created. It's a non-proprietary system. There's no licensing associated with it. It runs on Microsoft Access and also Esri GIS software.
The GIS system we have is fully compatible with the program and everything? Because I know there were certain things we didn't have. Do we still need an upgraded scanner in order to print all this information out? There was an issue with that.
You mean in terms of a large format plotter?
Yes.
That type of thing? It would be nice to have that, but if there's any large-scale plotting that needs to be done, we typically do it as a support service. But some communities do own large format plotters that allow you to go as large as 36 inches wide.
Okay. The other area I noticed you have proposed budget for the sign replacement. I don't think that's come before anybody. You're looking at over 3 years, $74,000.
That's something that'll be coming up. I do have monies in my sign account now for the replacement. I'm planning on replacing the stop signs first. But we will be coming in front of town meeting with an article for additional monies.
You qualify the $25,000 threshold for capital.
That's correct.
So, I mean, that needs to come forth, because it can be one project spread over 3 years, no problem. But it's not, right now, that program doesn't exist in capital planning.
Right.
Okay. And the stormwater drain water program, I believe, has to be implemented by the end of next year? Has to be up and running, if I'm not mistaken?
It sounds like that's going to be the case. And one of the things they're looking for is that system-wide map. And the reason behind that is that they want you to be able to, if you do have a reading of some sort at a discharge, they want you to be able to trace that back to the source.
Are you going to be able to provide us through the system about what our expenses are going to be to maintain and actually implement all that, since it's going to be required and unfunded?
Yes, in terms of the developing the mapping, yes.
Mapping, etc. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, we know now by having we know the quantity on the catch basins. It's very easy to generate what the cost is.
Okay. We'll need to do that, obviously. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We look forward to working with you, and I think that's very informative. It's a great report. Mr. Andrews, did you have a 30-second comment?
Just one last comment to Alan's point. We submitted documentation to SERPID for very highly dangerous intersections through the town's efforts. So we were hopeful to get grant monies. I will check where that is, but I'm not sure we got the funding. So it may not have wound up on the radar screen, because SERPID was very ambitious about trying to get communities involved at replacing stop signs and highly charged intersections that had incidents in the past, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guerin.
Thank you. Mark, you want to just
Mr.
hang in
Gibbon,
there?
if you would stay for a moment.
I'm here.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
.118 Sandwich Road, Mr. Gifford.
Okay, I'll just give you a quick update where we are. This is something that really bothers me. Every time I drive by there, I say, it's not right. This area should be cleaned up. And as to where we stand right now, and I'm going to ask Mr. Andrews for a little bit of help, but he was going to talk to town council on Friday. There's two factors here. I have a contractor ready to clean the site up, and our plan is to clean everything except for the
Asbestos shingles?
Asbestos shingles and the tires, they'll be left on site. We can do that for short monies. Rich Bowen was going to mark up the agreement I have with the contractor, and we need to get that signed. And the only other obstacle that's holding us up is getting permission to go onto private property. I need some sort of legal permission to go on private property and clean the site up, and I'll be glad to do it. And
Mr. Chairman, if I could, Mr. Gifford is absolutely correct. You have to have the permission to go on first, number one. I know Rich has been working on this with the attorney Perry for the property owner. But secondly, let me just clear this up because I think it's important. We will clean up the site at a cost under $5,000.
correct.
We will not, in my humble opinion, go and clean up environmental issues on the site, because once you start to get into that effort, it's a very slippery slope, in my humble opinion. So I did appreciate the work of the Board of Health, but the effort here is to clean up the site so that it is in the best possible condition that it can be. Then it's up to the property owner, as all property owners have, whether they be the shingles on the site or somebody has some type of a disabled vehicle on the site, they need to take responsibility for that themselves and follow up. So I think, once again, the effort here is to get our people to do the work through this contractor. Mark, and just outline what the contractor will do so the board is aware of that, please.
Yes, I'll be glad. The contractor's going to bring a couple of 20-yard dumpsters or 30-yard dumpsters. He'll remove all the unsightly material on site, load them in the dumpsters, and dispose of it. All the hazardous material, such as the tires and the shingles, will be left on site. He'll also cave in the foundation. We will supply clean fill to fill the foundation, but the whole site will be cleaned up and be presentable. And
I have two questions. Who assures that the hazardous materials are disposed of properly? Does the town, do we have a policy, or do we have a hazardous waste coordinator?
Well, Mr. Chairman, through you, I think the Board of Health has a role in this, the building department has a role in this. I think it's important that, once again, we've identified, Mr. Ethier has been on top of this from the get-go. He's out at the moment. But we'll continue to work with the property owner. I just think the town's liability is, we can get on the site, clean up the site, the neighbors' complaints can be fulfilled from the standpoint that we'll have clean fill on the site, and then it is up to the individual to follow through on that process. And we have actually, correct me if I'm wrong, and I know Dave Flaherty has waited on this, tried to assist them in the application to go forward to remediate those issues, those environmental issues.
I understand that, Mr. Andrews, that it's the homeowners. I just don't, I want to be sure that they're not going to be thrown into the woods somewhere, or, just buried on the site. But
well, they're not going to be buried. They'll be piled.
No.
neatly and left,
I don't mean us.
Oh.
I just want some assurances from the property owner that it's going to be disposed of properly. And will a lien be placed on the property for the expense the town incurs for this?
Yes, to you, Mr. Chairman, yes, it will. That's the intent of this. And you know what? This is a good test case for people who have stuff. We all have it. It just shows up after 20 years or something, right? This is a good test case to serve as maybe bolstering some of those environmental regulations, so we can try to get people involved with better care of their property, because once again, their property abuts other property owners. And I know what the board's intention was to make this issue, provide the issue with some traction to get it completed in an appropriate way, which is what we're doing. And I think, I just don't want to put our workers in harm's way. In many cases, you need a licensed site professional if you're doing something like this on a commercial basis. Those LSPs are registered by the state. So there is a process, and we will help the property owner, this property owner, anybody else that wants a hand with regards to cleaning up their waste.
But the bids that we put out, I mean, I saw them. these people are qualified to deal with this.
That's correct.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like we just
Right.
hired Joe down the street to come in and shovel the stuff up. I mean, we have qualified people to go in
Right.
there and take care of that property. My question is, this board, well, the previous board, voted to get this done. Authorized the bidding process. You've done that. You got your bids. You're ready. So
Permission. has been the
I still
holdup.
don't get it.
It's to you, Mr. Chairman, to the
Because,
chairman.
because to get permission, how long is that going to take? I mean, it's been going on for,
16 months.
I mean, come on.
Mr. Chairman, I think you were here the same night I was when the
Huh.
applicant, if we want to call him that, were fighting with their own attorney. So, let's be realistic. We need property. We need to be able to get on the property to commission the work. And if the board wants to do the environmental work, that's fine too. That's a bigger lien, and that money has to come from someplace in the town budget. So, my thinking was to get on the site, get permission to get on the site, get it cleaned up for what we know is there, that we can move pretty quickly. And there's liability, we have insurance through the contractor, Mark?
That's correct.
Is that correct?
And it'll take them 2 days to clean it up.
2 days.
Yeah, so where we're at is you're waiting for Mr. Bowen to give you permission, or
I'm waiting for
finally
legal,
you're waiting for that.
right.
Legal permission.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else have a comment? I'm sorry, sir. Anyone else on the board have a comment?
Just so everybody knows, when you remove any kind of hazardous material, non-hazardous material, even though you contract with someone, the person who's basically paying for that removal is still bottom line liable, no matter what. If someone dumps it in the wrong place, even though they have a contract, said it's okay, we're still liable.
The town.
And our town is, and also, we cannot step on someone else's property till we have, a piece of paper that says we can, or else they can arrest us as well.
Well, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for all your work on this, Mark, and he's here. Miles, I know everybody's. Okay.
Okay. Very good.
Thanks,
Thanks
Mr.
very
Gifford.
much. Next up.
Authorization to sign bills and documents, and I don't see any bills in our packets, which is kind of nice. Approve March 20th, 2012 meeting minutes. Do you have any?
You have the minutes in front of you. Can we get a motion to approve them?
I move that we approve the March 20th Board of Selectmen meeting minutes of 2012 as written.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve March 20th. All in favor? Anything on the question?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
1.
301.
And we have March 27th, 2012 minutes. Anything?
Need a motion?
I move that we approve the Board of Selectmen, March 27th, 2012 meeting minutes as written.
Motion
Second.
made by Mrs. Begley, second by Mrs. Winslow. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
202.
And moving on to town business, item A, review town administrator's transitional plan to include CETA.
Yes, I see the CETA folks are here, and I apologize. I know that I told you that the hour would be a little earlier. However, I didn't expect the first item to take an hour. So if you wouldn't mind coming up, it'd be a good opportunity to introduce Mr. Pina as well. Mr. Pina.
Mr. Chairman, may I introduce Salvador?
You're gonna what?
Can I introduce Salvador?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
You go right ahead. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, to you, to the board, and the audience here this evening. We have with us Salvatore Pina, Director for Community and Economic Development. Mr. Pina has been on the job a week?
A week.
A week. How's it feel?
Fantastic.
Good. Keep up
Well,
the
the next 15 minutes are going to be very difficult for you, just so you know that.
I got it covered.
But after a screening committee that started in December, I might add, of last year, Mr. Pina has joined the town and is part of our leadership team. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay. At issue is the transition plan, and Mrs. Connaughton, who is the chairman of the CETA board, has some issues. And so I'll let her go first and raise her points, and then we can discuss those points.
Okay, fine. Good evening. As you mentioned, Jean Connaughton, chairman of CETA, and Salvador Pina, our new CETA director, and we have Sandy Bessie from the CETA board, as well as Dave Smith and Rudy Santos. First of all, before I begin, I'd like to clarify for those residents and taxpayers that are still awake out there that
It's not that late.
well, for me it is. For CETA, all of our funding comes from the federal and state government. I know that I hear people asking questions when they see that CETA is doing something in the town, and they're concerned that tax dollars within the town are being utilized. And I just like to make sure that people are fully aware that this is money that comes from the federal government down through the state, and then we apply and receive that funding. If we didn't apply, some other town would have a nice new downtown. So that's the way it goes. At issue, and the reason we're here this evening, is that a letter was sent to Mr. Sanborn. It was, I believe, on behalf of the selectmen. It was sent by the town administrator, indicating that his last day would be tomorrow. I think that the intent was that you were giving about a 2-week transition period, but when all is said and done, it was only 4 days. Since Peter only has ever been, his contract was for 2 days a week. So he has been here 2 days a week. And I'm here really to request an extension of the transition time. And one of the reasons that I am making that request is that we have several projects that have, let me talk about the downtown revitalization. It has been touched by 3 directors. And Peter is now involved himself in it and really dug into it last fall. And it seems unfair to invite a new director in here and to then say, this is where we begin. But the other thing that we would like for Mr. Pina to have an opportunity to assess the operation of the CETA office. We'd like him to look at goals and objectives, and we have some other ongoing programs. And he's looking at a lot of good ideas. He's already on the job and working very hard. We've had some good discussions. And so we'd like to see him moving forward and to see that Peter can continue on a 1-day-a-week basis to follow up and oversee the downtown revitalization. Mr. Pina is down there with him. He does the walkthrough, so he's quite aware of it. And we also have some renovations that we've been trying to get done up on Recovery Road. I don't know whether you're all familiar with that property that we own up there. It's a very long story, but essentially we have an RFP went out and we had some bids come in today. So we're starting the renovation process up there. So it would be good if we could maintain Peter on that 1-day-a-week basis so that he could oversee those 2 projects. In addition, we have our grants manager is out on a family medical leave. And so that would leave the managing of the grants sitting there, and we don't really have anybody that sits in her place. Peter is quite adept and really has done an awful lot of work on that area over the past year. And he could, within that time, balance those 3 projects. So for that reason, we'd like to request that you extend that transition period. And we're hoping to at least have him here 4 times in May and perhaps 4 times in June. That's when downtown should be done. We're told that it will be done by the end of June. Now, I did talk to Mr. Pina, and I said we could sit there each week, we would talk about it. And if we thought that he was
had the time and things are moving smoothly, then we could shorten this time. But I'd like to have the opportunity for Mr. Pina and Mr. Sanborn to make that decision so that we move smoothly and give Mr. Pina every opportunity to make the plans for the future for us. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to make one comment that so everyone is aware, the Board of Selectmen did send a letter through Mr. Andrews to Peter, Mr. Sanborn, terminating his contract because that's what we had to do. And I know that some felt that letter was a little terse or rough or definitive, but that was the terms that we needed to use to end that work contract. So there was nothing mean-spirited about it. It is what it is when you have to write those kind of letters. I do recall that we did discuss some kind of a transition period, and I'll let the board. I wanted to make that comment about the letter.
Just to address that, we did, since that letter came out, my concern was, since it was terminated, that we might need to go back out for an RFP to invite him to stay at any length. However, we did discuss it with DHCD, and they said it wasn't necessary, that it would be fine, whatever we recommended for a transition period, excuse me, would be acceptable to them.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mrs. Connaughton, we talked about this, and we're going to have to agree to disagree on this one. We hired Mr. Pina, welcome aboard, because Mr. Pina was the one that told us that he could hit the ground running and that he could immerse himself in these projects and that he understood the office and the grants and everything else. And while I realize that the absence is unanticipated and something we may not have known about, and that might be something that we can address, I have real concerns about keeping Peter on even one day a week through the end of June. And I understand where the funding comes from, but at the same time, the board made a decision quite many months ago that it was imperative that we fill this position. And we went out and we sought applications, and we sat here, you sat here, Mrs. Bessie sat here for 7 or 8 hours one Saturday, skipping lunch so that we could get through these interviews and get this position filled, because we all agreed that this was the best course going forward. And I don't think that keeping Peter through the end of the downtown project is healthy for Mr. Pina either. Because at the end of June, it'll be something else. It's gonna constant that this is taking on a new job like this. I mean, Mr. Pina was a former community economic development director, so he's very familiar with the fact that we have lots of pots on the stove, and some are getting ready to boil over and others need attention, and this is why we hired him.
Just my comment to that, Ms. Selectman Winslow. I want to be very clear. This was initiated by the CETA board, not by Mr. Pina.
I understand that, which is why
I just wanted you to be.
Yes.
He's certainly willing to do what he has to do.
Right.
We just have been through
I
much
know.
trauma over the since 2009, and we're enthusiastic about having a new director and want to afford him every opportunity to be successful. And that's why we're here. That's all.
Thank
No,
you,
and
Mrs.
that's
Mrs.
exactly
Slavin.
why I directed my comments to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Winslow. Mr. Slavin?
Thank you. Hi, Sal.
How you doing?
Good. How are you today? Sal and I know each other from different organizations outside the town.
Oh, wow. Is there a question in our future?
Yeah, there's a question in our future.
It's getting late.
I know it's getting late. We'll do it very quickly. I'm a firm believer in having a smooth transition. It makes life a lot easier. There's a lot of things going on. Sal has a lot of things to do and a lot of time catching up just on the basics. I'll humbly disagree with Mrs. Winslow that I think that the idea of having this small amount of time with overlap will make life a lot easier, because I'm looking at things in the long term. In the short term, it's a little bit of money spent, but in the long term, it's money well spent. So I would be more than happy to extend it. And I know Sal, if he figures he's ready to go and doesn't need more help, he'll be immediately one to tell us I'm all set.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. I have to say that I find myself agreeing with Selectman Winslow. I'm not a fan of dividing the job. I'm not a fan of Mr. Sanborn not work. I would, if he were to stay and you worked side by side, that would be one thing. I am not a fan of, this is what he'll do, this is what you'll do. And then when Mr. Sanborn sees that through, then you can, okay, you're good, you can take it over. I'm not a fan of it. We hired Mr. Pina because he seemed to be the person with the most experience. He expressed himself that he was accustomed to having many things going on, being able to assess the office. And I don't think that Mr. Sanborn is not going to be falling off the face of the earth, and I think would be certainly available by telephone on a consultant basis. I'm certain that we would get a bill to reflect that, but I'm not a fan of dividing the job. I'm not.
Rudy, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what the chairman said. I've spoken with Mr. Pina. He's a very, very bright individual with a lot of realistic ideas. And it wasn't something that he came up with. It was the Cedar board. So I don't want to embarrass Mr. Pina.
Oh, no, I don't.
No,
I'm just saying, yeah, you're right. But I'm saying it wasn't his idea.
Well, he's next, I guess, to
Say that again?
speak. So when you're done, you can slide that microphone over to him. Mr. Pina, welcome.
Sure. Thank you.
The guy bumped into you the other day.
Absolutely.
Right? So you know where we're going. Look, I know you've only been here a number of days, and I think the way you need to do is clarify for the board what role you might use Mr. Sanborn. See, we used his services. It wasn't necessarily just Peter. Peter had people from his office who were here supposedly doing policies, procedures, all that stuff. They were helping out in the office. It wasn't just him that we hired. It was his services that we hired. There were people from his office doing work, not just him. So maybe you could tell us exactly what your ideas are in using that office's services for 8 hours a week for the next 8 weeks.
Yeah, I first that you should know, Selectman Begley, that I have been with Peter side by side. I've attended at least the 2 meetings on streetscape that have occurred since I've been here. I've walked the site twice. I've provided input that has actually changed some of the way the project is being done. So I've already done that. As far as Recovery Road, that was the very first day I was here. They had the walkthrough, so I actually did not go on that walkthrough. It was like 9 o'clock the first morning I was here, so I didn't participate in that. I think my only concern with all of this has to do with the fact that the grants manager is out, and the grants manager handles all of the rehabilitation piece of the program. I'm not familiar with how it's run here, and I hesitate to go forward and change any of it while she's not here. I'd like to have her input on how to do that. So those programs are very unique to each community. While I understand, procurement, I'll give you an example. When we run procurement for a rehabilitation program in Attleboro, in order for you to even bid on the project, you had to call us in advance and tell us that you would attend the walkthrough, and then you had to show up for the walkthrough. So if you didn't show up for the walkthrough or you didn't call us in advance, you couldn't bid on the project. Things are different here the way that's run. That's something that I might consider changing in the future. But there are idiosyncrasies in the program that are like that. I think he could be helpful at least during the time that she's gone. She's anticipated to be gone for another 3 to 4 weeks because of her daughter's illness. And I think that might be helpful. So if new projects came in, assessing those projects and understanding how that program works. If not, I'll just have to get on top of it, and it just means other things will have to stop in the interim while I bone up on the program and understand all of the way in which that program is run as we speak today. Because one of the things I don't want to do is treat the program differently from some other customer who might have come in and then you hear, well, my buddy Joe was here last week and a whole different set of things occurred. So that's my primary concern as far as the streetscape goes. If he's here, I'll continue to work with him. Once he's gone, I'm happy to pick that up. And Recovery Road, we've had conversations about whether we should go forward with the bid as it stands now, and that's a conversation that'll be ongoing. So we may not go forward with that bid, and we may stop that project and rebid it at some point. So I think that one could be handled in a different way, but my concern would be the cover for her absence, because in the interim, we basically have a bookkeeper and a grants clerk, and me.
And would you need Peter to do that, or someone from his office who's been working with us?
Anyone who would know the program.
We've had people working with us.
Yeah, anyone who would know the program would be fine. If he has other folks in his office that know the program, that's fine. If not, then he could do that. I also know, I think he's tying up some other pieces. He and I have talked about transitional items. For example, the budget. I'm trying to get my hands wrapped around the budget and all of the things that budget has been dedicated for. There's a new application that's in. We're still working on a 2010 application. So at this point, we've got 3 applications that we're working with, 2010, 2011, and a new one in 2012. I don't know if you've seen the binder that he showed you that's about this thick with the applications in it. So those are things that if he's not around, those are things I have to immediately get involved in.
Yeah, in my 2 cents is that, I think we spoke when you were interviewed, and although we had to do a hard termination to get out of the contract, we had a contract that we had to, I did tell you that if you needed help, that I certainly would support that help for you.
Sure.
So I don't have an issue with it, but we need to hear it from you. The citizens need to hear it from you. You've only been here how many days now?
I think it's my 7th day.
Yeah, 6 days. Yeah. And just be very cognizant that it's grant money, and we hear that a lot.
Absolutely.
But you know what? That grant money comes from the same people who are watching the people work. So whether it's town budget money or it's grant money, it's coming out of the same taxpayers' dollars, right? So we have to be protective of that as well. But if you need something, I gave you that commitment when you were being hired.
And I appreciate that.
If you need something over the next few weeks, I don't think anybody disagreed with the fact that you could call Peter or his office and ask for some assistance. So I don't think we're going outside of those bounds.
Thank you.
That's my opinion.
Thank you.
Mrs. Winslow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would certainly be willing to compromise on the issue of the absent employee, and perhaps we can, perhaps Peter's office has someone that can fill in that slot, because we do need to have that slot filled. That's an extremely important function. That's not a dual role. That's putting somebody in there to make sure that that gets maintained during an extended absence. And I would probably could be talked into a couple extra weeks on Peter, but not till the end of June.
To be clear, he was only working 1 day a week.
He's working 2 days. He's in on Mondays and Wednesdays.
And he's not even saying there's a schedule. He's saying if he needs it, he will call. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, I think it depends, because as you may know, that applicants come in to apply for programs, and if an applicant comes in for a rehabilitation program, we have to have somebody who can do the eligibility determination. Then we need to work to get the project, get a pre-bid estimate out on the project, and there's a lot of pieces to that pie. And if I'm doing that,
right, but I want you to know some history, because maybe you're not aware of it.
Sure.
We went for quite a while without that person in the past, just so you know. So there was we didn't hire anybody to do that, to my knowledge. So there was somebody in that office who was taking those phone calls, and who was, maybe they didn't do it right, or to everybody's satisfaction on the board, but there was somebody in that office who did that work prior to, just so you know.
Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Chair, just a couple things. I certainly want you to succeed. I want all the projects that you're doing to succeed.
Thank you.
But I want, I'm hoping that there'd be some sort of cross-training, so that if one person, the grants management coordinator, or anyone, whoever their role is, if they're not there, that there can be some overlap of responsibilities. So, and I know that you're probably looking at that down the road as
Absolutely.
well. I'm preaching to the choir. But as Mrs. Winslow said, and as Mr. Holmes said in different ways, but kind of the same thing, is I'm reluctant to have Mr. Sanborn come 1 day or 2 days a week. I don't understand why it can't be more of a consultation thing, unless we are saying that you need someone physically there. But if that's the case, is there a temp that his firm can provide to fulfill the grants management coordinator position at a much, I mean, it wouldn't cost as much as having Mr. Sanborn, certainly.
I guess I would say to you, the one thing that I don't know, and as I've come on board, I actually got involved in the whole Title V project, which has taken a lot of my time up immediately, and that's another. I hope to have some very good news for you the next time I'm out in front of here with the Title V project that we oversee. But what I don't know, for example, I don't know who on our staff can do an eligibility determination. That's not an easy thing to do. I don't know. I know that Mr. Longton, who comes on, and I understand that he's responsible for writing up scopes of work, but I also understood that a grant manager oversees that process. I know he's responsible for pre-bid estimates, and I know that she oversees that process as well.
But is there a temp?
No, those are all individual things that need to occur.
But
and
I'm
need to be
saying
managed.
is there someone out of Mr. Sanborn's office, or is there someone that can be a temp?
We can certainly ask that question. I don't know the answer to it.
Mr. Chairman? He has. If I could, because I just want to make this absolutely clear, I have the utmost respect for the CETA board and obviously the fine work that they've done. But let me make this abundantly clear to everybody. I talked to Mr. Sanborn. Every time we had a juncture where there was a bend in the road, Mr. Sanborn understood where we were going, and it wasn't about sending, quote-unquote, a hard letter. It was about understanding that at some point, all the dollars in the world, whether it be federal, state, or local, belong to the public. They're taxpayers' dollars. So from where I come from, I just want to make this very, very clear, that I think we need to give Sal a good run. I think we need to support him. I know the board supports him. So if that's calling in a temp person, and I'm aware, because day-to-day responsibilities fall under my jurisdiction, that the grants writer has indicated that she's available, I think, at least 1 day a week or something like that, or could be because of the circumstances she's facing. So I think we need to follow those guidelines and then take a step back and say to the Board of Selectmen, who ultimately are in charge, along with the CETA board, that we need a person of X caliber to come in, and that person is available with either Mr. Sanborn's firm or maybe someplace else. So that's where I'm coming from. I want to make it absolutely clear. There was no, forcing anybody to do something that wasn't. The board asked me to take action, and the town did, to make sure the resources that we have are protected. So, maybe after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and you said you had a fine manager downtown on the construction project. Maybe there's something more that we need to do, but I don't know. It's up to the board to decide that.
Well, yeah, we don't want to get off track here. The discussion is on transition. It's a transition plan.
Sure.
And the transition between Peter and Mr. Peter. So that's what we're talking about. We don't want to get off into individual projects.
If I'm hearing you all correctly, it sounds to me like you're saying that you would consider having me have access to him or his staff on some sort of as-needed basis. Is that what I'm hearing? So to craft some sort of a contract that says that if I were to need him or staff to come down for a particular period of time, that they could do that. Does that reflect what you're suggesting?
Mr. Chair.
It's a consultant gig. It's not hiring him to come and work here.
Right.
He doesn't work here.
Right.
You work here.
Right.
You're an employee.
Absolutely, and I'm very clear on that point.
And if you need something, you should have it. And if you really need it, in my opinion, just use it. Right? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not going to come in here and answer that phone and take those questions. He's not going to do that. I mean, he's kind of he's above that in the chain, in the food chain. He has somebody below his pay grade who does that. That's a better way to put it.
I think if I'm hearing Mr. Pina and the CETA board correctly, this is not necessarily about Peter himself, but the fact that there's a key position in the office that's vacant, and that Mr. Sanborn and his organization may be able to help fill that gap, especially during the transitional period. So, to that end, am I correct, Mr. Pina? Mrs. Connaughton?
That's certainly what I would suggest to you.
Is that what you're both suggesting? Is this?
I was suggesting Mr. Sanborn as far as filling in some time for the grants manager, because he has been supervising that role a good deal of the time and has taken a lot of time with that and is very familiar. So I'm thinking, okay, now we hire a temp in, and if that's what you want, that's fine. I just see that you're starting to have somebody have to rethink and go in there and look at everything and start again, where he's familiar with exactly what's on her desk, what needs to be signed, what needs to be moved, and what doesn't need to be moved. And that was simply why I was suggesting it.
Well, I think what I'm going to suggest to my colleagues on the board is that
Hopefully in the form of a motion, so we can move this along.
perhaps is that we, what would be the word for it, retain the service. So I'll move to retain the services of Mr. Sanborn and his organization to assist with the transition of the CETA office during the length of the grant manager's absence, with the caveat that that person does not need to be Mr. Sanborn. If there's a staff member in his office that can do that job and deal with the eligibility requirements and the people who are coming in, that's perfectly acceptable as part of this motion. This is not a free card to have Mr. Sanborn come a couple days a week. I want to be crystal clear about that.
Is that a motion?
You just need to restate the motion
Could I
piece of it,
just-
please, without...
Did Mr. Andrews say that the grant coordinator could come in one day a week? That was a possibility?
Chairman, through you to Selectwoman Begley, that's my understanding, because she is, I think, available under some contracts.
She's coming in a half day tomorrow, and she was in a half day the very first day I was here.
I'm going to stop this right now. We're not here to discuss schedules of your office. We're here to either provide him with the transitional assistance he's requesting or not. Not to discuss employee schedules. That's his job. So, is there a motion?
I tried.
Well, I mean, you made a motion and then you went on a simple motion.
Well, I want to make sure that it's very clear what I'm trying to accomplish here, and that is to fill that void that's created due to an unforeseen absence.
Okay, I have a motion to allow Mr. Pina to use the resources he sees necessary to fill a void in this transitional plan. That's what I hear. Is that
That's
it?
what I'm trying to say.
I have a second by Mr. Slavin. Anything else on the question or any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained?
Thank you.
400. Thank you, Sal.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
If there's anything you need, you let us know.
I absolutely
Okay.
will. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next up. Mr. Andrews, do you want to, we don't need to read the book, right? So if you want to just go back through the summary, and we can hit the key points. Is that good for you? Okay.
Motion to go beyond the hour of 10.
Second.
I have a motion. Second. Anything? All in favor?
Can we just put a limit on it?
Sure.
Because
Not beyond the hour. How about 10:30?
10:30,
Okay.
that'd be good.
That'd be good. That work for you?
That works for me.
Okay.
So can I restate my motion?
I'll withdraw my second.
Thank you. I move that we go beyond the hour of 10, not to exceed the hour of 10:30 p.m.
Second.
Motion made, second. Anything on the question? All in favor? All opposed? 400. Mr. Andrews, you want to walk us through, you want to go through the executive summary?
Sure thing, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. And I'll be very brief because this is a large document, but I wanted to make sure that as much backup material, as much information would be available to not only the Board of Selectmen, but the two newly elected members. And, once again, wanted to make sure that people understood the size of some of the cuts that we had taken, but also work that we had done to bring back...
Mr. Heath, would you do me a favor and close that door, please?
Bring back the...
Thank you.
Through a recovery plan, the accounting office with respect to setting the tax rate, establishing free cash of $307,000, building up the stabilization fund over the past several years to a number of $418,000 for rainy day issues that may come along. I will be relying upon, in the next several days, work or into next week, the board will have to check in with the screening committee that has been activated to hire a new town accountant. This will be the third time we're out. The screening committee, I talked with John Foster, who's chairing it, earlier today, and he's looking at the interviews set for next week, which I think...
Did you get a bunch?
We got some fairly decent resumes from out of state, and
Number?
I believe there's at least 8 or 9.
Oh, good.
So it's up to the board to look at that in filling the position. I would just also remind the board that some of the timelines that had been set in conference with not only the Mass Department of Revenue, but with this board, that we hit targets with regards to the setting of, the refiling of Schedule A's and the filing of Schedule A's for the state, which is a recap of where we are. And if you look at mass.gov on the Department of Revenue, find the town of Wareham, and you find a financial picture at a glance, which I think is a good thing for the town to stay up to speed with. I also wanted to remind the board that, once again, if we cannot find a individual, I think it's very important, because if you take town meeting out of the equation going forward over the next several weeks in the closing down of the fiscal year, it's important that we have a town accountant or a firm working to make certain that we can close the books down and be ready for auditors coming in for the final version. The firm of Powers and Sullivan have confirmed later this month that they will be coming in for that 6-month review that we talked about back on December 14th, just to reset that. And I think that report is going to be very helpful in not only confirming where the town stands from a fiscal standpoint, but it will also make certain that we have a good running start with closing down the fiscal 2012 accounts payable cycle and beginning the audit. I also have made recommendations that, once again, it's up to the board and new town administrator, but I think there could be a better alignment in the area of public safety. That's my own personal opinion. I think it's been proven, if you look back at the Safe Summer efforts that we had for 2010, summer 2010, 2011, and the efforts that have been made to coordinate between the police department, the Harbor Master's office, and the Emergency Medical Services Department, I think it's a natural fit to move forward. I also would like to recommend to the board that not only is this alignment important as we move forward, it is something that I think will help us become better managers of the resources that we have. I'll make one quick example. We put at least 20 summer specials on, and they have been very, very successful in assisting in the public safety during the summer months when the town swells by 25 or plus thousand individuals. It also makes a lot of sense to have that coordinated with the deputy harbor masters that are assisting us on the waterway so that we can work, I think, better along those lines to coordinate resources going forward. And I did not know, because I wrote this back, started on the 17th. It was delivered in process to the board on the 29th, taken up at our meeting on the 3rd. I respectfully recommend to you, because it's my, once again, humble opinion, that Mr. Derek Sullivan, who has grown to know the ins and outs of our financial circumstances and has worked tirelessly with departments to find ways to not only have them understand what they need to do on a day-to-day basis, but work to make sure that we have a good, solid financial picture going forward. He has the formal training in a master's in public administration. He has given us extra hours beyond the mind's belief, as it would say, with regards to preparation for financial analysis and for a number of meetings, and including town meeting. Finally, I would make departmental recommendations for your review. I've enclosed them. I decided to take them up, instead of taking them one by one, the way I kind of started to look at the world is by really 10 areas. And those 10 areas are enclosed. I'm happy to go through them. But their budget, their finance, their audit, they're interlocked in how we do business as a town. Public safety, accreditation, sewer programs, school department, the economic development, how will we use the best possible resources, including Mr. Pina, who's just up here, going forward to begin to put together a master economic development plan that will help us in the future. And we also need to, just as a reminder, update our planning plan for the town. The comprehensive plan is at that stage of its years of living that it needs to be brought up to speed. So I'm happy to go through the document, but once again, I have tried to put on one sheet of paper where I think things stand, and a humble recommendation. And you may embrace it, and you may not, that's fine, but the idea is that at least for the Board of Selectmen, the new town administrator, interim town administrator, they'll have some form of a roadmap that they could go tab and say, where are we on economic development? Where are the 8 additional liquor licenses that with the so-called jobs bill? How many jobs are we creating? What type of infrastructure do we want to put more money into some of the programs that we have to stimulate local business development? And how would we do that?
Sure.
Do we want to coordinate some of the services better within town? So
Yeah, and Mark, and I don't
Sorry,
think
I need to go
that's
on and on.
required, because this document was given out last week for people to go home and peruse,
Yep.
with the exception of maybe Mr. Slavin, who was newly elected. So I would just start with Mrs. Winslow. If there are any questions, commentary's not really necessary, but questions or comments. We'll start with you.
I don't have any questions about the transition plan. I think that one of the unique things that has happened is that our legislation to get the 5th member on the board didn't quite get through as quick as we hoped, and this is a hard thing because we're acting as a 4-member board, but there's a 5th person who a week or two from now is going to have to sit here and live with what we do. That's my only real comment. I think Mr. Andrews did a wonderful job of summarizing these different issues for us, and going forward, we're going to have to address them with an interim town administrator, and as we build a job description and seek a permanent full-time town administrator.
Mr. Slavin?
Well, I have had time to go through the whole document front to back. Most of the reports go from 2009 to 2011. They've been available from different committees, different organizations in town. I'm going to go in a different direction. We need to basically put an acting town administrator in ASAP, because we need to start working on these things. I don't really agree with a 2-page letter as far as making changes in departments, reorganization. I think that's something when we get to a final town administrator, I don't want to see us hampering somebody with a system or a program that he can't handle or doesn't want to handle, because we'll be hiring someone for the long term, hopefully. So I would say at this point here, I appreciate the work and everything else, but I think we need to put an acting town administrator in place to get going, looking for an interim. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And just so you know, we talked about this, I guess 2 weeks ago, right?
Yes.
As a board, and that Mr. Andrews was not going to do anything drastic or crazy in the town. They knew rebuilding Pink before he left, right? So
Haven't done it.
we had that understanding. So I don't think there's any need to worry there.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. First of all, Mr. Andrews, thank you for this body of work. It really represents many hours of hard work, and we definitely appreciate it. I'm going to disagree with my two fellow board members. I think that I'm not as concerned about what the five of us have to live with or what the new town administrator ultimately has to live with. I'm concerned about what this town has to live with. So I think that we need to look at that document for the citizens of this town with certainly fiscal responsibility, consolidation of services, possibly regionalization of services. I think that this kind of touches on all of those things, and I want the opportunity to certainly look at it more in depth. But I also agree with Selectman Slavin. I agree that we need to appoint someone immediately, and then you leave Friday. You leave Friday, so there has to be someone in that place, and then if this board, Friday's the last day, so we need someone that's going to step in the breach and kind of take the shots, as it were, and until we hire an interim or make a decision on an interim or and ultimately make a decision on the next town administrator.
Yeah, and Mark, and I would just say, my comment, like I told you, I did read through the document. I was joking. I didn't fall asleep.
You said it put you to sleep. Steve, you said it put you to sleep. It put me to sleep.
It had to put you to sleep right then. I mean, come on. No, and I think it's it'll be a good tool for whoever walks through the door to look through this stuff based on somebody's experience of 2 years working with it. So I think it's a great job that you put this together.
Mr. Chairman, can I make one last?
Sure.
Just
Absolutely.
on the tab on transportation, I just want to point this out because this is weighing on my mind and I will be available. I'm available by phone, or if you need me to come down, I'm happy to. On transportation, the town needs to know, and the board understands, because we've had presentations on the so-called Cranberry Highway Route 28 and 6 project, because these phone calls are going to come into somebody. So whether it's Mr. Sullivan or Mr. Smith or Mr. Jones, Pam Hasner from Mass DOT called me the other day and said, okay, where are we? You're leaving. The money's out there, $11,388,398, the single largest transportation improvement program on the South Coast. So make no bones about this. If we don't step up to the plate and get somebody moving to get those dollars in place, there are other projects that are in the area that are going to be grabbing at those dollars faster than you can hit them on the back of the you-know-what. So I said to Pam that, I will come back and sit with the chairman or whoever the board would like else, I know Alan's on the planning board, and talk about a strategy to convince the planning officials that we are serious about doing this project. There are over 300 right-of-way issues that have to be dealt with on Cranberry Highway. So unless those issues get dealt with, we're going to be in a poor position to move forward. So I'm pledged to work with you. Just one area. That phone call is going to come in. Pam's going to call next week or 2 weeks from now and say, where are we?
Well, are you saying that, by making that statement, are you saying that the town is not actively pursuing this?
No, we are. But we have to...
Well, I understand you're leaving, but you're not the only dog in the race, right? I mean, there are people working on this project, correct?
There are, and the board needs to adopt the plan that came forward last June to say that we accept the conditions, maybe change a comma or a semicolon or whatever you want to do, but make it so that they understand that we're serious about doing business, because they're going to work on right-of-ways in towns where they have agreements. So we got to get that off the mark, is my
Well,
point.
I think the board was in pretty good support of this project.
It
I
was.
think there was maybe one or two major questions. Is when this is over, we own it.
You're correct.
And I think there were two questions. One, how do we maintain it, given the fact that you heard Mr. Gifford here an hour ago? And two, is there equipment available as part of this project to maintain it, right? Because you not only need the manpower, you need the equipment in the winter. Well, we got lucky this year, but in most winters, our plows can't plow that road, right? And those were, I think, if I recall, the two major questions about that project before the board accepted it.
Mr. Chairman,
But I think that's all there was.
they're workable. You're absolutely correct, because you know what? It's like a warranty. You're not going to have to start to do work on that road surface for about 4 or 5 years. So, and how many fatalities have we had out there? I mean, it's just like, it is just so, that's just one issue that needs to be brought to the forefront of an acting town administrator, interim
There
town
is a
administrator.
team working on it.
You are correct. The town
Yeah.
planner,
That's what I think.
the building department, the inspectors are working on it. But just one issue, because those phone calls are going to come in. I'm just trying to I'm happy to try to answer them, but
But is there Mr. Andrews, are you asking us to make a motion that,
I'm just saying, maybe what we want to do is look at what they propose to us and get the answers to those two questions and sign on the dotted line and get the project moving. That's what I'm suggesting.
I think what we'll do is put it on a near agenda. I'll contact her, find out exactly. I'll be able to.
She wants to come. We'll get together. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else? Mr. Slavin?
On this particular project, we're already, my understanding is we've lost the number one spot. I believe the Fons Corner Road is now in front of us. I believe when they came before the Board of Selectmen, they also made a presentation. They had 153 or 154 legal items that they had to take care of. Had to do with roadway access, had to do with, people's signs on state property, highway takings, etc. And at that time, I'm positive that they basically asked the town to assist them in order to get this done, because without that help, they weren't going to be able to get it done timely. And I think it's still sitting that way.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, my understanding.
I'll catch up with you tomorrow. We'll make a phone call.
Yeah, we'll.
And do what we're going to do here.
Sure.
Get it on our agenda. All right?
I just want to make sure that my conversation with Pam Hasner, who is the project manager for the South Coast, is that we haven't lost a dime to Fons Corner. But those meetings are coming up, and what would be good to have at those meetings, perhaps a town planner can go there with a signed agreement so we can convince the planning entity that we're serious about what we're doing. And just to the point on, we did offer services and space at Town Hall. But you know what? The state won't let us do the right-of-way taking, even if we had the best lawyer on it, Alan. So they have to do it. But what Pam is saying is that she just wants to make sure that there's somebody with the light on the third floor of Town Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you. Yes.
since we're already on the subject, do we want to skip ahead to item C, to the discussion and/or appointment of an acting interim town administrator, because we are getting short on time at this
Yes.
point?
Well, just a question on B. Did everybody, I think that's probably something we can put off a week. Hopefully, our fifth member will have I'd like everybody to have a say in the posting that goes out. Everybody, at least three of us, got the older version. Did you get a version yet, Mr. Slavin?
it should have been in Mr. Slavin's packet.
All right, good. With the board's indulgence, the posting until Tuesday. Is that okay? 17th.
What time are we going to meet? I'm only
No, we
kidding.
don't have, no,
I'm
it's-
only kidding.
next week is fine. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that all right? The rest of the members? Okay. Next.
Well, shall I make a motion?
What's
I'll
it,
make a motion.
discussion or
I'll make
appointment?
I'll make a motion, and then it can be seconded for discussion, yeah? Why not? I move that we appoint Derek Sullivan as acting town administrator. No?
I'll second that
discussion?
Discussion? I'll discuss. Since I made the motion to second for discussion. Listen, I have a lot of respect for Mr. Sullivan. You know that. Unfortunately, I just couldn't support that motion. I mean, he's doing an excellent job here, and will continue to do that job, whether he's the acting town manager or not. I have that kind of faith and respect for him. But I just think that it's a funnel, more of a narrow focus at this point. Your finance skills are great, but we have unions, we have employees, we have this big thing called Wareham. And I just think at this point in time, where your focus has been needs to continue, and you would increase several percentages. But I just don't think that's working.
All right, since it's for discussion, I think that I'd like to hear from Mr. Andrews, like why he made the recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just real quick, the Reader's Digest version. Mr. Sullivan has been involved in a number of issues because you have to calculate what a collective bargaining agreement is. Earlier today, we talked about a number of agreements. When you talk about people come to the office that are homeless. They need a place to go. People come to the town hall to get information that they can't find in other departments. So it has been a team effort since we've melded together the offices of the Board of Selectmen, if I can speak this frank, we have worked together as a team, whether it be Shirley or Janet, or Derek or Barbara, whoever, Susan. So I think, and by the way, it's not about the pay because he's working here pretty much below his level with the master's degree. He's given us great service, but to have somebody that can open the door that would help on a number of fronts, whether it be collective bargaining or finding information, processing documents. I know the chairman's going to be working very closely with the staff on the board agenda, but there are hundreds of pivotal points on the agenda that have to be ferreted out, whether it be with legal counsel or with department heads. And once again, I think in acting, and then you look for an interim, because the way I understand the business to work, it's going to take some time, maybe a month or so, to find an interim, if you post that. And then, unless you're going to go post for a full-time administrator. So, my opinion, he has the demeanor, the public service commitment, the masters in public administration that provides the town with at least the opportunity to have an acting role on Monday morning or Tuesday morning. I guess Monday's a holiday. So, prep for meetings, making sure the board's up to speed on some of the numbers that are going through. What are we going to do on town meeting floor relative to some of the background material that has to be inserted into the packets? Those are all things that are creeping up in the back of my head that I need to talk to somebody about that, and he's right there, or somebody else. If you put somebody else in, that's fine too. But on Tuesday morning, you have to have somebody has to be acting as town administrator.
That's correct.
That's
Yeah, we
correct.
understand that.
And just about every department head already has another job to do.
I'm sorry. I was going to make that point because we've asked people to double up in offices, across the board. And now you have a situation where a person who's not going to be in the field, but he's going to give you, the TLC and the effort to make it happen. If you have somebody else in mind, tell me who it is because I'll work with them tirelessly to get where we need to get to, or at least get through this document to answer any questions that I can. But it is an important role in the office. I sign at least 3 or 4 dozen documents a day. So I'm not sure who's going to be signing those documents that are going to turn the wheels of government come Tuesday morning.
But, Mr. Holmes, my concern is this, as I'm sure everybody on the board is concerned. At 5:01 p.m. Friday, we need somebody that's
I
there.
understand that. I've been thinking about this for a while. For a month we've been doing this. Anything else? Okay, I'll take a vote. All in favor? All opposed? Aye.
No.
Abstain? know how much respect I have for you. And you just keep doing a bang-up job. All right, we can do on the town administrator.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion that we appoint as an interim town administrator John Foster and pay him at the current grade level of the town administrator for the duration of his term until such time as the position is filled.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Discussion.
For discussion, John has done this 2 times for us, actually 1 time almost for a full year. So I don't think it's very much of a stretch as long as he's willing to go ahead and do this. And working with Derek would make a nice pair, and he could do a very good job.
And Mr. Chair, if I might, I do think that Derek offers a big piece of this, and that this is going to be an opportunity for great learning experience for Derek also, and to build these experiences for himself in his future career. And I hope that he understands that there's nobody that sits on the board that doesn't think that you're not doing a fabulous job. So.
You know, John certainly and has done the job in the past. You know, I just think of the bond that we're trying to build. Just if you can just think of this thought, that now he's you know fully immersed into day-to-day activities, everything from handing out assignments to department heads and monitoring them and getting productive results. And what about the relationship that we need to build with the town accountant? If we had a town accountant, that's the symmetry that I'm worried about. That when in our time, I understand you can go a year in these positions, but what about the tax collector and you know, connecting to the town accountant in a way that's meaningful to making sure that we're staying on top of this work.
It's just, yeah, but
That's my concern.
I think we're focusing in the wrong place. This is an interim job.
Sure.
And the goal is to not be haphazard about it.
Sure.
And I'm not, trust me, that's not,
Yeah.
that's not even in my, but is to get this job posted and to get interviews underway and to get a new town administrator. I mean, that's what we have to do. I'm not interested in interim town administrators hiring an interim guy and then a lady and then they're here for 6 months and then, you know, I don't think we need to do that. I think, and as I recall, this gentleman did a good job the last time we called him in, and I think it just took way too long. I mean, that whole process took I don't know how long it was over a year. We're not looking at that. I mean, we're looking at somebody, in my mind, a search committee, and, you know, or not a search committee, but an expanded board to do some interviews, kind of like what we did with Cedar, in my mind. And, you know, I'm thinking that maximum a couple of months, this is over. That's what I'm thinking. Now, if you frame it that way, I think the answer is different. That it would be acceptable to do that.
Sure. I'm not saying,
Right.
no, I agree with what you just said.
But if it's 6 months or 8 months or a year, that's not acceptable to me.
I'm looking back in my mind's eye at the office connecting with somebody who can be stable in the accounting department, that he's downstairs, or that we have somebody, so you might have to elevate somebody else in the treasurer's office to come up to that speed if they can, and then handle his position, you know, 75 or 80% of it, while he's working as your interim town administrator. I think John would do a great job. So don't get me wrong. I agree with what you just said. But who's going to do the things that he's doing on a daily basis?
If he's appointed,
Yep.
his issue.
There you go. Okay.
It's not my issue. That's a day-to-day issue.
I agree.
Just like with you. That we don't tell you what to do on a daily basis. You're appointed to the job. You do your job. Right?
Tell me about those black socks I was golfing.
I tried to pick that picture up before I left the house tonight. Mrs. Davis? All right, so we get motion made and seconded. Anything else? Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstained? 301.
Mr. Chair, since it's now 10:25 and this is our last evening with Mr. Town Administrator, would the board mind if we skipped ahead to the Town Administrator's report and if we started with you, Mr. Chair?
I would interrupt your town administrator's report if that's okay with you.
Mr. Chair, if it's possible, well, I guess that we took care of D, so all right, forget it.
Oh, my God. Can I interrupt your town administrator's report?
Mr. Chairman, you can. A kind word is all that matters to me, so don't worry about it.
All right. My pleasure. Mr. Andrews, the Board of Selectmen, Wareham, Massachusetts, awards the Certificate of Recognition to Mark J. Andrews in appreciation of your dedicated service to the town of Wareham as the town administrator for 2.5 years. The Board of Selectmen, on behalf of the town and representatives of the community, wish to thank you for your professionalism, dedication, and service to the town of Wareham. Presented this 10th day of April 2012, Wareham Board of Selectmen, Stephen M. Holmes, Kara A. Winslow, Ellen M. Begley, and Alan H. Slavin.
White Sox? Is that what it is?
Yeah, the White Sox. It's open the box.
Best wishes from
Mr. Chair.
And on that note, Mr. Chair, motion to adjourn at 10:30.
Could we
Second.
give him 10 seconds?
Yes,
to
of
say
course.
Thank you. Mark?
Go ahead, Mark.
10 seconds. Stop crying.
Go ahead, Mark.
He gets me all worked up. Talks about my golf game. Thank you very much for the ability, and I'm very proud to serve the community. I'm a phone call away. Nothing will ever change the experience that I've had here. From folks in the neighborhoods to businesses that have come here, and my hat's off to the Board of Selectmen. Keep moving forward, and like I said, let me know if I can come back. I fell in love with Onset, and you find me walking around someplace around Shell Point at some point this summer. Thank you.
Best wishes, Mr. Andrews. Motion to adjourn.